It has been a whole 2 weeks, and I have not pissed off anyone from the pro wrestling industry. It's a new record.
Congratulations.
This is a warning to all living mortals. That who shall ever open this chest of demons will release 13 of the most terrifying ghosts upon the face of the earth. Okay, cut it. This isn't going to work. Let's try some nostalgia bait.
It's finally strange. You looking happily deranged. I can't be saying let's in bed. Or have you picked your target yet? It's empty. Got your dog bite. It's empty.
Okay, that was better. But let's try something a bit more cinematic.
Hey, where my broken arrows at? They try to tell us we can't fly. Like we too broken or something. I mean, I'd rather let them know. Balls up. Hold up. My squad about to roll up. Hold up. My squad about to roll up. Get them balls up. Get them balls up. Get them balls up. Get them balls up. Hold up. My squad about to roll up. Hold up. My squad about to roll up. All the way up. Get them balls 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 all the way up. Broken arrows get bows up. Sometimes I pray with my nose up. Thinking about when the world crumbles and my whole squad just goes up. Whoa. Ain't gotta worry, we straight like an arrow, yeah. Ain't gotta worry about faith, nope. I'm on that straight and the narrow, yeah. I just go straight like an arrow, yeah.
Yeah, that's the shit I like. Let's start the Barroom podcast. Take it away, Jacob.
For the love of God, she's actually wearing the Packers jersey. It must be what Charlie Brown felt like when he finally kicked the football. Holy crap. How's it going there, people? Episode 137 of the Barroom podcast, and I got a new background. I'm already regretting it. It didn't come out the way that I wanted to, so this probably be the only week that you'll see this thing. But we are here, and we're joining with some people, some lovely faces reappearing here on this podcast here tonight, and we got a lot of good conversation here tonight because I got 3 topics to talk about that I think we're going to get very, very deep into. But joining us in order here is our good buddy Cider. How you doing tonight, Cider?
I'm high.
That sounds about right. By the way, there was a question here that was asked by Mita. Was asking, is Cider okay? And I was like, is there any reason Cider wouldn't be okay? Like, you're okay there, aren't you, buddy?
Yeah, I've just been really busy.
Okay.
That's all.
That's all. And then also joining us here, fighting with his internet, is our good buddy Orange Hat Reviews. How you doing there, Orange?
I swear to God, I will find this internet and I shall kill it. I'm doing well.
How hard is it to find Comcast? I mean, it shouldn't be that difficult.
Yeah, right.
Also joining us here, the guy who runs Bleeding Fool, the man, the myth, Chris Bradley. How you doing there, Chris?
Hello. Glad to be here. Very honored to be amongst such a lovely panel tonight.
Lovely people. That's the best way that you should describe them there. Also joining us here tonight is our good buddy Rob Model. How's it going, Rob?
Pretty good. I enjoyed the Super Bowl result from the other night. That was pretty satisfying. Nice to see somebody else win for a change. And I just think Kansas City's luck ran out. I mean, they were in 1-possession games all year. I mean, they barely beat the Broncos like on a blocked field goal earlier in the year and they just never showed like a dominant performance. And so I'm kind of glad that Philadelphia just kicked the shit out of them. Because I mean, the Eagles are a team I've kind of been watching ever since AJ Brown got traded away from the Titans in one of the most lopsided trades in recent history. So, but football season's over, so I'm going to be sad for a little while.
Spring training starts back in a week and a half. So if you're really excited, even though the Dodgers are trying to kill it for everyone, that there is something else going on here this week. And then, of course, our good buddy Packer Girl joining us here once again. I'm not even calling you Nerdigans tonight. We're calling you Packer Girl for the remainder of the show. How's it going?
It's good. The Super Bowl was awesome, but I think part of the best part of what was great about the Super Bowl was everyone booing Taylor Swift. That was amazing. And it was not just at the stadium, it was on the streets of Philly as well. They were saying fuck Taylor Swift. They were burning Chiefs jerseys, and the streets of Philly, of course, it was entertaining as hell to watch people destroy street lights. Yeah, Crisco did not work, of course. They were destroying everything up in Philly.
I mean, when they went to the Super Bowl 2 weeks ago, some poor kid went up there, climbed up on a lamppost, fell, and died. And I think to myself, the whole point of them putting Crisco on the pole is that you can't climb up there and hurt yourself. And that's exactly what you did almost immediately. And it's like, it gets to a certain point where you just can't really have that much empathy for people. It's like, if you're going to do something that stupid, then I guess go all in. And that kid definitely went all in. So that's all I have to say about him. But, yeah, like I said, the Super Bowl happened. I'm glad the Chiefs didn't win. At the same time, Philly won. So it's like I lost no matter who was going to win that game. So it's not a big win for me one way or another. So,
but I do want to mention this too. What was great about Philly winning was seeing like Saquon Barkley with his daughter. That was really adorable. And I did like, yeah, and I like seeing, but I did like seeing like. My point is, I like seeing the players with their families. It wasn't about Taylor Swift. It was actually about the players and their kids. Mm-hmm. That was really nice to see.
I will say that it was absolutely hilarious to watch Tay-Tay come to the realization that no one really likes her, especially in the realm of football. They're almost sick and tired at this point of seeing her face. And
fucking laughed it off. She doesn't give a shit.
There was like a moment there where it was like, wait, are they booing me? It's like, yes, they're booing you. Like you're the person that they don't like.
Yeah, and then she laughed it off.
For the first time since she hatched, people disappointed.
Well, she laughed it off because she saw herself up on the Jumbotron. Right. What's she gonna do? Throw a fit?
Mm-hmm. Right. She could have just did like I let them.
She's rich enough she couldn't get away with it, so she's a billionaire.
I don't know if you guys heard this or not, but her fiance was supposed to propose to her on the field that night at the end of the game.
Yeah,
it's hard to propose when you're down 40-6 with a minute and a half left to go in the game.
Hey, I know that game went pretty bad, but have a little faith in me, all right?
Could you imagine the booing? I mean, the booing was bad enough when they just showed her on the screen, but if everyone said, "Wait a minute, he's got something special here."
Oh, it would have been worse.
Yeah,
and people wouldn't have fucking cared. I mean. First off, they still did that fucking black national anthem, that anti-American bullshit. That's the one reason why I will never watch another NFL game.
You thought that was bad? You should have saw the halftime show. It was even worse.
Oh, I know about the halftime show. Fucking Sam L. Jackson with his bullshit rhetoric, and fucking Lamar Kendrick thingy, whatever his fucking name is, came on and spouted a bunch of fucking ebonics that nobody fucking understands. And that's all there is to it. It's like, you guys, if that is a freaking halftime show, then I don't know what to tell you. You guys suck. Not you in the panel. Fucking NFL.
No, when I saw that halftime show, my immediate reaction is, did Spike Lee produce this? Because it seems like Spike Lee produced this.
Well, and there's been a few people on the panel who have liked halftime shows in the past. Like, I think Prince gets mentioned as like doing a good job or something. I have not watched the Super Bowl halftime show since Justin Timberlake grabbed that pasty off Janet Jackson's boobie. And so it's literally, I've not watched one in 23 years.
It's been 21 years.
If you can find the Prince halftime show, it's worth a watch. He actually, it's raining.
When he does. Yeah, it was perfect.
It was perfect.
I will say this, just a little reminder to just how old all of us are. If you were born the day that Janet Jackson got her boob ripped off at the Super Bowl, you can now legally buy alcohol.
Yeah.
That's how long it's been.
So old I am. But I've never regretted not watching it or putting on the Puppy Bowl, which is, by the way, what I do. I put on the Puppy Bowl because it's adorable. But that's, it's just a time waster. Like, can we get to the second half? I mean, the game didn't start until 6:45, which I think that's like the longest start or the latest start that I've personally seen. So, but yeah, there's a lot of the hoopla around the Super Bowl is nonsense. I watched the Lord of the Rings starting at 9 a.m. I could only get the theatrical cuts in, but that took me all the way to 6:30, and I was like, the game still hasn't started. What the hell? So
probably the president showing up delayed things a little bit.
Yeah. By the way, after I did my Bible and show on Sunday, I started watching the Giants and Chargers game from 2005, the old Sunday night game where Eli made his, I guess, debut, quote unquote, to San Diego after refusing to go there, and it reminded me. It's like, oh yeah, I did used to love the sport at one point in time. It was good times.
Oh, I want to mention this too. Did you guys hear when Brady was talking about how it hurt when he lost to the Giants, and this is when the Chiefs when it was officially going to be the loss for the Chiefs. As soon as I heard that, I was like, dude, Brady, you are still butthurt about Eli beating you.
He's still butthurt about the fact that he got picked in the 6th round in the 2001 draft. He's still upset that he went that late in the draft that year.
Yes, that's what made him great, is a chip on his shoulder. So I'm sorry, that's literally competitors. They never forget that shit, even if they're the quote unquote greatest of all time. And by the way, this whole like narrative that Patrick Mahomes is on Tom Brady's level, it's like,
he's not.
Do it for a while. Like
that's one positive thing about the Chiefs losing is that narrative that they tried to drum up this week died quickly. So we don't have to have this conversation again for at least another 5-10 years.
Go ahead,
Orange.
And yes, I have not watched a full fucking football game. I've seen them play a little bit, and then I just walk out of the fucking room. But it doesn't mean that I don't pay attention to shit. Every time I mention hear anybody fucking mention Brady, or if you're talking about Tom Brady, I immediately tune off because that dude is a fucking cheating piece of shit that should have had all his fucking rings and all his fucking awards and shit taken away the second he fucking deflated balls.
Are you sure you're not from Buffalo? Because you sound like you're from Buffalo.
So again, and I pointed this out.
I have family in Buffalo, and my mom is from Buffalo.
The game that they are talking about, where deflated football supposedly helped the Patriots run for 300 fucking yards, where Tom Brady didn't even touch the ball except to snap it. Yeah, I just don't really buy it. Not to mention that, how many times did he win? Does he have?
It doesn't matter. The man deflated balls for the intent of cheating.
They never proved it. And
then why the fuck did he flush one of his phones?
He beat the NFL at their own game, and they still suspended him. They had to appeal their own ruling, go back on it, and then be like, "Oh, we're going to suspend you for 4 games," because they had egg on their face. But whatever, it's fine. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. It's like, he is the greatest quarterback who's ever played. I'm a huge fan of NFL history, so I qualify those things.
And this is why I understand why Brady still is a little hurt. It's because he didn't beat Joe Montana's perfect Super Bowl record. That is why, because he remained undefeated in the Super Bowl.
Okay.
The moment he lost in the Super Bowl, that's when his dream of beating Joe Montana's record, because Joe Montana was his hero, because Brady grew up in the Bay Area.
Right.
That the moment that happened, that was gone. He would never be his hero.
You know who gets absolutely no respect as an all-time great? Terry Bradshaw, because he won 4 Super Bowls too, and no puts him in the conversation at all.
But he still lost.
He had a great team though. Like, he had a dominant historical defense. He had 2 great receivers. He had Franco Harris. Yes, Terry Bradshaw's a very good quarterback, especially because of how elite he was, 4 Super Bowls. And by the way, people discount this all the time. He played against some of the best teams in NFL history. You're talking about the Raiders when they were the black hole, and they were like pissing excellence, and Al Davis wasn't actually a defunct owner. Had John Madden coaching them, and I mean, you had all kinds of competition in the AFC every single year. The Miami Dolphins were incredible. So I mean, the Kansas City Chiefs, won a couple titles. So it's just like you had. It was a bloodbath every single year in the 70s.
I mean, back when, or a lot of people don't get my last bit here. Sorry, Jake. a lot of people also underestimate a player. I mean, he may not have had a sparkling career, but this is a dude who literally played in the NFL for a hobby, or as a hobby. A lot of people don't give enough credit to Bo Jackson. I mean, that dude played every fucking sport on a professional level or lower, and excelled at all of them. And then joined the NFL just for fun. And it's like, yeah, I'd love to see players go up against Bo Jackson in his prime, players nowadays, and just see how well they would do.
So we're gonna speed through here because if we don't get past this, we're gonna be here for like a half an hour.
I do want to mention one other thing because this kind of bothered me. Was there was a couple of things. One, in terms of the MVP, everyone was saying this that the defense deserved it, especially the rookie that caught the interceptions for the pick six. And the other thing was with ESPN doing the Black Excellence, and they're like, and people were like, well, what about the white rookie that caught the pick six? Why isn't he getting any credit?
Because he did it on Black History Month, and that means he's racist. So Kira Mita here says, Light of the Sky, Secret Moonlight. Neozoic is here tonight. We're going to skip through Neozoic's questions here. Like I said, we got 3 topics I think we're going to go pretty long on here. But to answer your question, Moonstruck, and then I would have to say Donkey and the girl monkey. I can't remember her name, but yeah, that'll be my one. Vanya is joining us here tonight as well. Leslie Tarkin is joining us here. It says that which movie is so bad it's good. We talked about this film called, what was it, Wish Upon. If you guys remember the movie show, the Joey King gets hit by a car and then bounces onto another car. That one's absolutely hilarious, and it's not supposed to be a comedy whatsoever. Kirk is joining us on our Rumble side of things right now. Orange Hat saying behave or he will find you, just like his internet. Biona Rat says, hey everyone. Who else do we got here real quick? We got Tampa Guy 19. Excuse me, Tampa Guy 19 joining us here. Taylor Swift deserves to get booed for trying to get people to get the vote for Kamala Harris. DK saying hi, Cider. Get it? Hi, Cider. You get it. You get in. Spencer's joining us here, listening along with us tonight as well. Leslie says, hey to Chris Bradley. You can say Chris Bradley, not Christ Bradley, even though that name would probably be a little bit cooler, but you know, you don't get to name that. March Madness is coming up soon. I'm kind of soured on March Madness here, though. That's one thing. Yeah, Leslie
March
absolutely
Madness.
loves.
We don't like anything here.
Yeah, we're curmudgeons here on this show.
We're a bunch of fucking sour grapes. I mean, y'all heard of the grapes back in the day? Like the 90s or the 80s and shit? Well, we're the fucking sour grapes. How about that?
You name it, I hate it.
We're those
damn fucking straight
from Japan. We just have to stand out from everybody else. Who else here? The commercials were very preachy. I haven't caught up on all the commercials yet, but there is one we will talk about here tonight. Tampa says his favorite Super Bowl was 2004. That was the Carolina, New England Super Bowl, and I will never forgive that stupid kicker from Carolina.
John Casey. He kicked it out of bounds.
Out of the bounds
with
less than 2 minutes to go, giving Brady the win. Like I truly believe Carolina could have won that Super Bowl if it wasn't for that. But you know, that's a whole other conversation for a whole other day. I think 2020 is probably a dark age for a lot of sports fans, for being honest with ourselves here. Jalen Hurts did a good job for the Eagles quarterback. I mean, he's a Super Bowl quarterback now, but just kind of like, I guess. Bill Belichick's out the head coach of UNC. Yeah, that's not going to last very long. I can tell you that.
What the fuck is a UNC?
University of North Carolina. Yep, those Star Blues, baby.
Okay. An indoctrination and institution. Got you.
Or we have to call it state religion. I mean, a state institution. Thank you very much. Yeah, so yeah, that's all we got going on here. So I want to start off this one on a rabbit hole that I went into yesterday. Because how many of you guys have watched HGTV here in your lives before? You ever see those popular HGTV shows? They do home renovations sometimes. Sometimes they do ghost stuff. This is the whole thing of Discovery Plus. And I was watching a show called Flip and Flop, which is like one of the most popular shows that's on HGTV. Basically, you have these this couple here. The guy's name is Tarek. His ex-wife is Christina. She has now been married and divorced several times around ever since they originally broke up. So maybe she was the problem. But he was doing an episode where they were renovating a home in Garden Grove, California. Now, for someone who is from San Diego, who knows the Southern California area very, very well, I know about the Garden Grove area in Anaheim. Very, very nice, quiet family area if you guys want to find somewhere kind of retired to. But it was something that he said, which is true objectively, but it really makes you think. It's like, are we the baddies here in this scenario? So let me lay this out for you here. In the process of the flip, he's flipping a home that was like at the time about $800,000 in Garden Grove, and they're trying to like fix it up, put some renovations into it, and then resell it for basically $1.2 million. Now, for those of you guys in the rest of the country, I got the latest out for you here. $1.2 million in Garden Grove, Orange County does not get you nearly as far as $1.2 million literally anywhere else. So just because it's a $1.2 million home, you're talking about a house that has like maybe 1,500, maybe 1,700 square feet at best. And that's the type of money that you're shelling out for a place like that. So you got to keep it in perspective here. And this is something that he talked about. And I thought to myself, wow, it's like, is that really true? Is this really happening? He said that when we started doing this business, because the show has been on since I think 2012 officially, when he started doing this business, they would buy homes from that area for about $250,000 and then sell it for about $400,000, $500,000. And now here we are 10 years later, and those homes are worth $1.2 million, right? So if you're a seller, that's like the best news you could possibly ask for. I mean, oh my God, these homes are so atrocious, so bad, so terrible. And then all of a sudden you flip them and you make 1.2 million. That's a lot of money. Here's the problem on two fronts. One, does that mean that the people who habit these homes in these neighborhoods, are they being priced out of their own neighborhoods? Because let's be honest here. If you couldn't afford $400,000 in 2012, are you really going to be able to afford $1.2 million in 2024? Is that necessarily a good thing? And then here's the other question that I had here about the show. We could bring up a couple other points here as we go along, but at the end of the show, they tell you how much the home sells for, and it's like, oh, for all our closing costs, it sold for 1.2, so we made a profit of 320 something, $1,000. Time to find another house. So it's like, here's the thing. They don't actually tell you who they sell these homes to, right? Now, I understand that there's like, privacy laws and acts that you can't tell people like, oh, so-and-so from so-and-so bought this house, right? I get that. But it really begs the question, who's actually buying these homes in these neighborhoods? Who actually has $1.2 million in cash that they can straight up buy for this home? Because it's not, your average, everyday family of four, or if someone's looking for a 4-bedroom house that's buying it. Is this somebody a little bit more sinister? If you guys know, there's this company in the country, I know they're pretty strong in Southern California as well. It's called Compass. Compass is a place that, basically buys, sells. They broker a lot of homes for agents and for clients and stuff like that. They make a lot on sellers fees, buyer fees, stuff like that. They're a company that, if you guys didn't know, you have to do your due diligence to dig into. Has a lot of financial investment from both Vanguard and Blackrock. And they're very, very prominent in the same location that a lot of these homes are being sold. So I'm thinking to myself, is HGTV essentially doing a show where they're fixing up these dirt homes? Let's be very, very clear here. I can show you guys a photo of this one here. When your home is in this condition, like, it's literally just a person who probably is either too old or simply just cannot afford the upkeep of home ownership, right? So they lost their home to the bank, whatever the case may be. The bank foreclosed on their home, took their property from them, and now it's being sold to investors. The investors take the property, flip it up, make it real nice, and then sell it off to a company that could very well be in touch with BlackRock, who now owns the property in your home. So, Cider, I know this is something that we kind of talked about a few times before I go a little deeper into this one here, but do you think that it is extremely possible that the shows that we love to watch, and I like this show, and I know you like this show here, so we're not saying there's people who don't like the show, but is it really possible that HGTV is basically profiting off the poor to give to a overreaching private sector conglomerate that's literally buying all the land in the United States of America? Is it possible that we're seeing that?
I'm pretty sure if you go through about exactly 2 Google searches, you're going to find that HGTV, Disney Plus, however you want to call them, whatever this organization is, it's housing all of this, is owned by BlackRock and Vanguard and Main Street, because they own everything. They own 89% of the S&P 500. So there's no way that they don't have influence over this. So what's happening is they'll make money on the house and they'll make money on the television show. So they're absolutely making money out of running the real estate market through the roof. Then they're making money on the commercial, just showing you, like, look at all these houses you can't afford that don't look any different than they did 40 years ago.
Yeah. And like I said, you go there, and I can show you just this here too. The homes look very, very nice. They look gorgeous, like when they're all said and done. That's not really the problem here. One, just on a completely financial level, is that, like I said, I even did a search about this in my area. If you were to go to Milton, Georgia, and you were to find a $1.2 million home that it's available on the market right now, you're talking about something that you can at least get about 6,500 square feet for. This one was not the one particularly that sold for that much, but if you're trying to get a home in this neighborhood today, and it just looks like this is the layout of your home, you're probably shelling out about $1.2 million out there at the moment. And Rob mentioned this here too, that Orange County is pretty wealthy. There are parts of Orange County that are very, very wealthy. That's true. Garden Grove, I wouldn't necessarily say is one of them. Garden Grove used to be kind of like a mid-tier neighborhood for a while. Like, there's more expensive neighborhoods in Orange County. You got like Anaheim Hills. You got like Newport Beach, which is like the really, really expensive like neighborhoods. But this one was kind of one that was in the middle. So this isn't exactly a neighborhood where it's like everyone has, the kind of money to kind of shell to be in this neighborhood. It feels like they're all kind of being forced out as a result of this here too. It's like, yeah, 1.2 million for two. It's not even, honestly, it wasn't even 2,000 square feet. Like I said, I think it was either 1,500 or I would say 1,700 at the absolute most for that home, and you're paying 1.2 million, which is just absolutely absurd to think about. Chris, let me ask you this one. As someone who may or may not be a homeowner yourself, I'm pretty sure you didn't pay nearly as much as some of the people paid for these properties here, but what is kind of your take on this whole situation? Because there have been people trying to use government to crack down on home flippers for this very reason, because they feel like that a lot of the, I guess, people are being priced out of the neighborhoods that they grew up in. I've suffered through that growing up in North Park as well. I know Spencer may have experienced that as well. What's kind of your take on this, at least from a California standpoint?
Well, no, I'm in Tennessee. I'm not far from you, and we own our home. We paid $138,000 for a 2,300 square foot house. My wife and I, about 10 years ago. She's an interior designer. We souped it up, and now it's on Zillow for like $400K or something ridiculous. And the thought has been, we've put out a garden in the backyard and cleared out a lot of space on the property. But, even if you sell it, at the high rate, you got to find a house, right? So you got to find a house that you like, that's not going to require a lot of work. But I do believe that Blackrock has been buying up homes. I mean, I've looked into it a little bit. I know there's been a lot of chatter around it. Vanguard too. And they just own this. This is part of their portfolio. They are into just about everything, and they're where they go where the money is and where they can buy low and sell high. And there's so many little scandals at HGTV and even some of these real estate agents you see on there that have gone to jail for the things that are going on. It doesn't surprise me at all, but I don't have any inside information on it.
And that's kind of the difficult point, is because I have a lot of experience in mortgage. Like, I have like 11 years in experience in mortgaging, 12 now with the new year. But, and this is kind of the problem that a lot of families have considered, right? Because they see the property of the value of their property going up, which as a homeowner is great. But at the same time, we're in a position where it's great for sellers, but it's not great for buyers at all. Because not only are you buying, let's be honest, overpriced homes, because a lot of these homes are going for well over their asking price because there's so much competition to buy them. So you might have to end up paying like 30 grand over what the actual asking price is just to even be in competition for it.
It's absolutely true, Jacob. You're absolutely true. My daughter just bought a home, and the person that beat her out paid $25,000 more than the asking price to beat her out. Yep. She said, I'm not going to negotiate. I'll just pay them what they want. And then the realtor came back and said, nope, you got beat because they paid more than the
and that's
crazy.
Go ahead,
I just want to say that RFK Jr. came out and talked about this, that what has happened is that Blackrock goes and creates these shell companies. And so that's who comes through with that $25,000 extra, because they don't care. They'll throw $400,000 more. They want to own that property so that you don't. And you have to pay a mortgage to them forever. They want to set you up with an 89-year mortgage. They're fine with that. Your kids will pay that. They don't care.
I'm still more
And I
concerned
think-
about things like down in Maui or in Palisades or North Carolina or wherever, where the government will say that this property is no longer, we're going to have to tear everything down. We'll pay you pennies on the dollar for your property. And then BlackRock buys that from the government and puts in a whole new neighborhood if they want, you know.
Oh, no.
Condos.
Did you hear about what's going on? Okay, so the reason why they're the government was so iffy about West North Carolina there, up there in the mountains, was because there's a lithium deposit up there. One of the largest lithium deposits in the American continent, by the way, North American continent. And that's why they don't want them rebuilding in there. That's why they're trying to say, oh, this is floodplain. You can't rebuild here. That's why they're trying to do that, because that way you can put the mine in. You don't have to worry about floodplains with a mine. You just channel the water out.
It's totally logical. It's just sinister, right? I mean, it makes sense because it's logical that some sinister, godless, heartless business conglomerate would say, hey, that makes perfect sense. Get those rubes out of there, pay them something, put them in a hotel and get them the hell out, and we'll take that property. I've heard the same thing. I went up and filmed some footage for a big global insurance company with drones and all that stuff about a week after the tragedy. But man, there's still people up there that aren't being taken care of. But FEMA's a whole nother topic.
And I wanted to point this out here too. I think Rooftop Korean had just mentioned it. These are people who have the luxury of making all cash offer for your property. And for those of you who are all cash, it means like if you're trying to go through a bank or get a mortgage so that you can actually buy a home, you're pretty much shit out of luck, because you got people who be like, oh yeah, by the way, I can pay all cash and close in like in a week. And then you don't have that ability. They're going to go to the person who has all cash, and then you're not even going to be able to be in the arena if you don't have the money to pay for not only just the down payment, but now the entire house you have to pay up front. Because even if you are lucky enough to get in by use of a bank and a mortgage, it's not like it was 5 years ago where the mortgage rates were like 3% and everyone was sitting on 3% for a while. Now to get in, you're looking at 8%. And you got to hope that somewhere in the next few years that the interest rates actually goes down to where you can even get a solid deal to even buy back in. So like I said, it's not a buyer's market at all right now, but there are a lot of people, well, I wouldn't say people, maybe a lot of corporations that seemingly buying up a whole lot of real estate right now. So you wonder, it's like, are we creating a bubble that's going to pop worse than 2008 for perspective? Because a lot of people have been saying this is like, hey, look, we've been riding this wave here for a while. It kind of things came to a standstill pretty hard during COVID and the years following that, but we haven't really experienced the type of, bubble burst that they experienced in 2007. And if we do experience one like that, it can make 2007 look like a small blip on the Richter scale compared to what could be coming here. And that's when you look at these companies like Compass and Vanguard and Blackrock, that's when they're going to start eating up everything when that happens here. So I just thought it was a very interesting look at just how rapidly the real estate industry has changed just 10 years, because from the context of someone in California, Nerdigans is the only person here who's in California as well, is like if you got in, like said, 2010-ish, and right after the housing crash and all that stuff, you started buying up all these very, very cheap properties and started renovating them, trying to resell them, you could have made a killing there for like a 10-year period. And that's what you saw, because everyone wanted to buy, or at least there was a lot of people interested in buying. That drove up the demand. So if you were a home flipper in that time period, you probably made a lot of money. It's probably going to be significantly harder to do that now, because California has raised some interesting proposals over the last few years. They try to tax house flippers about 35% if they don't sell the homes, or if they sell the home in less than like 6 months, right? So you have to hold the home for a certain period of time before you can sell it, or the state tax you 35%. And then if you are holding a home like that, you're talking about holding costs and other selling costs. They're talking about thousands upon thousands of dollars here. So they're trying to, I guess, de-incentivize people from doing this, but at the same time, when you're talking about this type of money, it's not really going to stop. So do you think that the government should be stepping in, or you just kind of look at it as like it's California's problem for now, but even though you could say this could probably branch out to the rest of it, like how do you draw the line to even fix this, or is this even a fixable problem?
I think you gotta you gotta make it harder to do, sure, but you gotta regulate it somehow. But I don't know if how California's doing it right now is the best way to go about it.
So how do you regulate a company like do this and in the process regulate somebody like BlackRock versus an individual who buys houses? There's plenty of people who
Yeah.
individuals who buy houses and flip
Yeah,
them or
that's
rent
different.
them
Yeah,
or rent
because
them out. So
because that's the thing. I agree with you on this, Rob, because there's a difference between an individual and a corporation. Like the individual, if it's an individual flipping a house, I think they should be for the most part left alone. If it's a corporation, on the other hand, that's who I think needs to be regulated a little bit more.
Yeah, but then again, like I said, the big problem you've noticed here is that if Vanguard can essentially hide their investments through a company like Compass, which is specifically a real estate like property, a real estate like entity, like they're the ones that kind of handles all the dirty work. But if Vanguard is essentially putting their money into Compass and Compass is doing all the dirty work, well, you can't hammer down on Compass without I mean, you can't hammer down on BlackRock without somehow inadvertently going to Compass as well. So it's like they found a whole lot of ways to kind of avoid kind of the regulation efforts that they've tried to put out here. Meanwhile, like I said, if you're just someone who watches a lot of HGTV shows, think, oh, I'm going to try my hand at flipping homes, and now the state's being like, oh, by the way, we're going to start charging you 35% of your profits. Going in, it's like you're screwed. So it's like even our efforts to try to solve the problem is only hurting the people, like I said, the individuals directly involved who are just trying to make a buck. And who knows, there may not be that many more bucks left to make out of this whole situation. So Orange, I want to get your thoughts here real quick before we jump over to our next topic on just kind of the whole issue here of home flipping and Vanguard.
Before Orange, I do want to say something about rooftop Koreans thing, because my parents, my mom and my stepdad live on 5 acres of land, and when they built their house on there, they paid cash too. Well, wrote a check, but that's because they saved up all the money that they worked really hard for. And they made sure they did. So all they had to do basically is just pay property taxes. Everything was paid for upfront. So I understand what they're saying about that, because people do that. They pay for their houses upfront so they don't have to deal with a mortgage.
Go ahead, Orange.
My thoughts on this whole thing is that I think BlackRock and Vanguard need to be investigated for a monopoly. Because considering how they are cornering the market to such an absurd degree, there is monopoly laws in our country. You're not allowed to own a supermajority of anything when it comes to open markets and whatnot, if I remember correctly. So, yeah, to keep it blunt, simple, and straight to the point, investigate them for monopoly, have a full audit of all of that, or of all of their earnings and whatnot. And if it is found that they are indeed engaging in a monopoly, they need to liquefy as many assets as they can, or as many assets as they should, and they should also have to pay a very hefty fine. I would say about, I don't know, 40% of their total wealth.
$2.7 and maybe still dollars.
Well, I'll say this, and this is kind of, there's two angles to this one here, because Vanguard, as far as Compass goes, and this is just Vanguard alone, this isn't even counting BlackRock. Vanguard has about 3 million shares in Compass as it currently stands, at a significant amount as far as their dollar value. At the time, it was about $6 per share. I'm pretty sure it's a lot higher than that right now. And then you talk about the assets. Like I said, from Vanguard alone, they control and manage assets of upwards of $5.2 trillion. So that's a large scale of what they pretty much own through not only just here in the United States, but in the entire world. That like their value of their ownership is $5.2 trillion. You're talking about like Google and Apple level like of assets here, just from like those two alone. And this is kind of what I wanted to show you guys here just real quick, because this is a quick little summary of essentially how these homes work when it's all said and done. Let me make sure I pop it up. Oh, I got it full screen it. There we go. So this is essentially like what you'll get here when it's all been said and done. This is how the housing market has been skyrocketing here. I'm not sure if it's still quite this good, but it has been doing this for quite a while.
Chris, we haven't received an offer. I'm still super confident that we're going to sell for our asking price of $2.7 million and maybe even more. When that happens, we're going to make our biggest profit ever, over $706,000. Before we're
By the way, this is from like literally one sale. So imagine you sell one of these whopper of homes for the entire year and you made that much money in profit. Now, if we're talking about just average Joes like us, I mean, you could pretty much sit on that type of money for a couple of years and be good if you really, really wanted to, right? Like if you were to drop, if someone was to drop $700,000 in your bank account, you may consider retirement. Like that's just what it is. But in the context of what they're doing here, I mean, a lot of these guys are kind of pulling away from, the housing inventory and causing more of a shortage as far as that goes. Then, like I said, who's actually buying like these homes? You don't really know who's actually putting down the money for this. It could be your average family who worked their way up to get this amount of money, or it just could be a corporation be like, hey, we'll pay you all cash. Then the next thing you know, everyone in the neighborhood's screwed. So this is kind of the game that we're running here. Blackrock can always hire Crisis Hour to show up on HGTV and with a check and buy someone out there. Who knows if those buyers are actual real buyers or they're stooges representing a bigger corporation. You're never really told who these people are. So, I mean, that's kind of the game here as well. No, somebody was asking if their audio was choppy. I don't know, but I did hear an echo for myself there for a minute, so I'm not sure who that was coming out of. I said, I hate that type of design. It looks like a static of shipping containers. Yeah, that's more of the quote-unquote modernist design that you see at a lot of homes because they make it seem like the house is like more pricey than it actually is. So if they make it a more modernist design, and this is another angle you can attack here too. When people are trying to get the most money they possibly can, they don't really go for like a classical look or a more chic look that will actually like attract real buyers to homes. Because little people will look at like the little details for like homes, be like, oh, they have the original windows, like, oh, they kept the door framing and stuff like that. Other people who are just trying to buy it wholesale, they really don't give a crap what it looks like. It's like, what's the bottom line in the numbers here? And that's pretty much what you have there. So I thought it was a very interesting conversation here and kind of a, oh crap, are we the baddies type of moment here? So that's
look at all
I
the
have there.
And there's a couple other trends that this is related to, which is like they're telling people to buy those miniature homes or those tiny homes. It's like, that whole like, oh, you'll have nothing and you'll love it. You'll love your life with nothing in it. And you have these companies like BlackRock and Vanguard buying up houses. People can't even afford to buy houses. You need to have perfect credit. You need to be able to, you need to be able to show that you can pay for it and you have a career and you have a job. And the deck is completely stacked against the average, the middle income, middle class person. And it's like, live in your crappy small home, or, so it's depressing to look at, honestly, and trying to see an end in sight. And not to mention apartments. Like apartments are, I'm not saying that's a solution, but like,
yeah,
I don't know, they're really fucking expensive too. So it's like it seems like there's no middle ground.
No.
And speaking personally, like my parents are doing great. Like they bought their house 10 years ago, it was $250,000. Zillow's estimate is over $500,000 now. So I mean, you know what I mean? It's doable or whatever, but for millennials, for people that are younger, it's a struggle to try to, have the right career, try to save up the money, and then you're competing with these ridiculous.
I mean, if you're getting a conventional loan requires you to at least have 5% of the down payment for your home up front before you can even go forward with anything else, right? You think of these prices, it's like, can you even afford 5% of whatever the value of your home is to even be in the consideration? And like I said, if somebody comes around all cash, whether it be a corporation or a foreign buyer, wherever the case may be, you're out of the game before it even starts. So. And I think there's one more point here for I jump over to our next topic. Is there was a question here about gentrification. It's like, is this kind of a nod against gentrification? Here's my thing. I'm not saying that there aren't arguments to be made against gentrification, because obviously you can say this is one of them. But the problem that I have with most people who complain the most about gentrification is that they're complaining that their neighborhoods are being taken over while they were in control of said neighborhood. They made absolutely no effort to improve it, let alone make it a desirable place to begin with. So it's like, if you have control of your neighborhood now, and you actually want to make it an attractive place to live. So I don't know, maybe you guys can bring up the value of your own homes rather than having somebody else come into your property and do it for you. It's like, don't complain when your area is notoriously known for being a complete s-hole, and then get mad that people start coming in and try and make it nice and appealing. Like, I think there's a big story here about like Cabrini Green, and everyone knows or has heard of Cabrini Green. Is a very, very violent housing projects in Chicago. It was very notorious throughout the 80s and the 90s and whatnot. It got torn down a while back ago, and they've kind of gentrified the neighborhood ever since. But people like Jordan Peele were complaining about the gentrification of that neighborhood, but it's like, the only thing you guys were ever known for was violence. So you can't complain. It's like, oh, now they built a Target over here. It's like, well, what are you guys doing when you had control over your neighborhood? It was in your name. It's like, you made it an undesirable location. Like, you can't have it both ways. So there are legitimate arguments against gentrification. That's not one of them. That's just you being lazy and being mad that somebody essentially made your neighborhood a desirable place to live after decades of you ruining it. So that's what I have. Gentrification.
Sorry, that's what I kept hearing was gentrification.
There was another word I kept saying yesterday that you were all on, but we'll get to that one another time. Let's talk about Lady Gaga here. Let's talk about Lady Gaga's latest music video. I'll call it that because I shudder to call this thing art, because if you guys have been checking out my Sunday show, which is the Bible In show, I've done the last 2 weeks the biblical truth about the satanic panic. And the reason why we talked about this now is because, as you guys recall, there's been a lot of talk about satanic panic recently in the sphere of the culture. And there's a lot of people who have a very jaded secular view about what actually went down during that time period. I implore you, if you haven't checked out my last 2 episodes, you go back and check it out now, especially if you're a bit of an older person who grew up during the times of, the 60s and the 70s and 80s, who actually remembers that time period. There's a lot of interesting information you probably didn't previously consider. The influences from that time period you probably didn't know about. Let's just put it this way. It wasn't just because Christians decided that barcodes were satanic that everyone was crazy after the fact. There's some pretty interesting information there, especially in terms of who actually influenced the music and the culture of that time period. Now we have Lady Gaga here, and Lady Gaga has a new music video out here called Abracadabra. And let's just put it this way. She came out in the award show, I think it was the Golden Globes or one of those 2 award shows not too long ago, and she's going all in about, protecting trans people and protecting the LGBTQ. That's her bread and butter. Everyone knows that at this point in time. She's coming off here with this new music video, which I have no shudder whatsoever calling it demonic and satanic, and I have receipts to back it up, just in case you guys think that I'm being just a little bit crazy. Her latest music video here is essentially her looking like a creature. Is that the best word that I can use for this one? Can anyone think of a better word to describe her look here? I'm trying to be nice for the YouTubes.
Well,
I'm trying to look like Hunger Games here.
Freak.
Yeah. She looks like a couture demon, actually. I like the style.
Well, maybe that's exactly what she was going for.
I like alternative style, so.
Yeah,
You're
so do
weird.
I, but not this.
But so here's what's going on here. And in the video, I guess it starts off of her saying like dance or die or some like weird nonsense stuff like this. So you have all of these obviously LGBTQ looking people here, a lot of non-binaries, I'll just put it there, doing a lot of weird interpretive dance with Gaga singing in the background. And the music video is what it is. I mean, if you know Lady Gaga stuff, it really doesn't like surprise much of anyone. Here's kind of the parallel that I found very, very interesting here is when you start getting into the lyrics. Now, as Leslie mentioned here, very, very interesting in some of the stuff that we've uncovered over the last 2 weeks on the Satanic Panic episodes, because what we uncovered here is that there is reasonable probability that a lot of your favorite artists that you guys probably love, past, future, and present, have use substances that have put them in contact with quote unquote spirits, and I am using that quotation finger thing when I say spirits, that have given them direct influence into the lyrics and the composition of said music, right? And we've gone into this in great detail, but I learned the lyrics to this song here, and I thought it was very, very interesting, because I thought to myself, is this something that Lady Gaga wrote, or is this something that someone who's in contact with Lady Gaga actually wrote? Like, first verse here says, "Paid a toll to the angels, drawing circles in the cloud, keep your mind in the distance when the devil turns around, holding me in your heart in the magic of the dark moonlight, save me in this empty fight in the game of life. And there's a couple of very, very intriguing references there, especially since the focus of our first two episodes have been on Aleister Crowley and Anton LaVey, and how so many people in Hollywood have been directly influenced by their teachings here, because you go all the way back to their teachings, such as, there was the Book of the Law from Anton LaVey, was that Aleister Crowley? No, Aleister Crowley, who had the Book of the Law, and then the Satanic Bible, Anton LaVey. A lot of very, very interesting odes to that as well. There's also some lyrics here talking about, going on the west side of the road and watching it burn with the dust of the flies. It's actually a direct reference to the broad path of destruction that Jesus referred to as the path to hell, just in case you guys weren't following along with that here. There's a lot of talk about witchcraft and obviously the moonlight and black magic and stuff like that. So you see it a lot there. Abracadabra, by the way, just in case you guys didn't know, was actually created by the Gnostics, who were used it as an incantation word for witchcraft several centuries ago. And then it was also repopularized and reworded by Aleister Crowley. If you guys don't know who he is, well-known Satanist. So this is a lot of very, I'll say, interesting things that you'll see here. And I don't think there's any coincidence when you see music videos. By the way, something else you guys can check out here if you're looking into stuff like this. Why is it always the woman in red that seems to be the focus of the video? It is not just with Lady Gaga. We've seen this with many people. Do anyone remember Rihanna's halftime show? What was it, a year or two ago when she did the Super Bowl and she was all dressed up in red? I think Alicia Keys did it last year. It's like there's always a reference to a woman in red. If you guys want to know what that reference is, join our Bible Lens on Sunday nights. I'll tell you exactly what it means. But the big thing that I found very interesting here is that with all this nonsense about her new music video, she also has a very, very interesting connection with this woman. Now, for those of you guys who don't know who this woman is, if you guys have watched the show long enough, you know this to be Marina Abramovich, a woman who is labeled as a performance artist who just may outright be an occultic witch. And I think there's probably more evidence to suggest that she is an occultic witch than a quote-unquote performance artist. She's the one who was responsible for the spirit cooking allegations in John Podesta's emails back in the WikiLeaks in 2016. She's also been involved in was it symbolized cannibalism that we've seen her attend events with both Gwen Stefani, Will Ferrell, where essentially they're eating people in a symbolized cannibalism like way. We also saw her photos talking about cutting the middle of your finger to eat the pain and stuff like that. What's her face here? Lady Gaga is well known with Miss Marina Abramovich. I'm going to play this little video here because she has some very, very interesting sayings to say about her. And then look at how her face glows, like literally glows like the light of the wind when she mentions Marina Abramovich. Then I'll show you guys a little video here that she was involved with directly with Miss Marina. But I'm going to show you guys his for full context.
She's lovely new haircut though.
Our next question is by Marina Abramovic in New York.
I was just speaking about her today. I am obsessed with this woman. She is so incredible.
Her question for you is, it's quite abstract. Who creates limits?
We do. We create our own limits. She is a limitless human.
I'm just going to stop just right there. If you understand the context of what she just said, the question was who creates limits, and then her first thing is that we create limits. And if you guys know anything about Luciferianism and satanic and all that other stuff, you know that these people love to essentially view themselves as their own gods, right? And you know that that's kind of like a core tenet of them. So it's like if you ask them, well, who creates the limits of what human beings can do? It's like we create our own limits because in their estimation they're their own gods. And I do have that clip ready here too, but I just want to play just a little bit more of this.
Human being. She is so incredible. I went to go see her exhibit at MoMA. She is such an incredible piece of art in herself. And she is limitless. She is limitless in every way that I can even, in my raven brain, that I do not possess the limitless brain that she does. I look at her and she is so free. She's sitting right now for like 3 months in MoMA all day long, and she's just in a state of nothing, of freedom. She goes somewhere else. And to be able to do that, you have to be limitless. And you, for yourself, she did this one piece that I think is the most powerful. And it's when you are around someone like Marina that you, as myself, a self-proclaimed pop performance artist, want to go home and slit my wrists, and I, you know, I am nothing. I have achieved no sense of art. She is so boundless, and she did a piece, I think it was in Germany, and she laid on a table and she put out all of these things, a gun, condoms, sleeping pills, booze, ropes, all
Was
sorts
this a
of
Bill
things on this
Cosby
table.
party?
And there was,
I think they call that a Diddy party. I think that's the party that was going on here.
That's the
Eyes
new
shut.
vernacular. Gotcha. It was a Diddy
Mhm.
party. Got it.
Especially with like the guns here. Now I actually do have. Chris sent me a tweet here. The guy showed the tweet. Says, "I'm very honored to have Marina as a mentor. Her believing in me has completely changed my life and reawakened my discipline here." As you guys can tell from the interview, something's very, very missed here when it comes to Lady Gaga's connection to this woman. Who, keep in mind, if you literally search pictures of this woman, she has connections to basically every big name celebrity and politician you could possibly think of. She has connections to the Clintons, obviously, because her name was brought up in John Podesta's email. So that's where everyone started figuring out who exactly she was. You've seen her at events with Lady Gaga, obviously multiple events with Lady Gaga. You see her with Gwen Stefani, Will Ferrell, Jay-Z is another one, very interesting name there. A lot of high-profile people in high-profile places that all have connections to this woman. This was a performance art video that she did
She's a
not
witch.
too long ago.
I mean, come on, Jacob. You know she's a witch. I mean, they even advertise it. Like if you go below,
Chris, don't bury the lead.
I'm sorry. Go on.
But no, we're getting into it here. Like I said, we've talked about her many times before, and it's like, yeah, if there is a satanic witch on this planet, she is absolutely one of them. And let's be very, very honest here. Lady Gaga is probably a disciple of her to begin with here. But Chris, I will let you go on here because I was going to play this video here in the background. What is your take on Lady Gaga's, I guess, latest video, how you feel about her as a quote-unquote performance artist? Because this is, I guess, what you're seeing here is performance art. And more importantly, when was the first time you were aware of Marina and her connection, especially to Gaga here?
I saw that video where she was out in the wilderness trying to meditate, and she was being starved by the witch Marina, basically to get in touch with her spiritual side. She was very excited about it. I feel like, yeah, there it is. Is this the video that you were talking about? This is the video. Yeah. This is an older video. This has been out for a while.
It's been out for a while, but like I said, there's multiple ones, especially with them together.
Yeah. And this is it. So, but I remember the first time I saw an interview, I wish I could find it. I'd provide the link to you. But you know how some people say, oh my God, you know, the sort of, and she was saying, oh my Satan, in an interview, like on an Oprah interview or something like that, just very casually. And at first I just kind of thought, well, this is like a Marilyn Manson. She's just trying to be controversial and stir the pot. And maybe she was at first, but I really think she has pursued it. And I think that Abramich, she takes it 100% seriously. Whether you believe in witchcraft or not, there are people in this world who are completely dedicated to blood rituals and witchcraft and spells. I mean, it's a real thing, and she's into it, and they're both into it, and there is, and you know, I'm a Jesus believer, so they're as anti-God as they come. You know, have you ever seen her music video Judas? I mean, you could do an entire series on this woman, but the thing is she'll very coyly dismiss it and not admit it. This is part of the fun of being able to just say whatever you want. Yeah, there's Jay-Z and the witch.
So, I mean, Hollywood has had a long history of sort of appealing to the crazies or the shocking figures. And I mean, Charles Manson, they were hanging out with Charles Manson, weeks before he ends up murdering those people at Cielo Drive. And, and I'm
And
not.
by the way,
I'm
I
not
think we
trying
actually
to,
directly mentioned that because especially the region of, was it Laurel Canyon, which is where the murders happen, and there's a lot of weird occultic stuff that's going on specifically in that area of Los Angeles as well. So I don't think it's any coincidence that's where it happened too.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to to say this isn't, because look, I've always kind of stayed away from this stuff because I did my own deep dive conspiracy stuff when I was 19. Frankly, I just ended up freaking myself out too much to really stay in that world or whatever. But listen, these people are weird. These people are obsessed with shock and awe. They're obsessed with being subversive. They're obsessed with tearing down anything that's traditional or religious or that kind of gives people stability. That's the pattern I see. And with Maria Abramovich, or whatever the hell her name is, she seems overly invested in influence. All the people that she knows, all the people she hangs out with, is seen with, it's all about influencing others. It's all about sort of being at the center of, hey, people are going to see this. People are going to take this in.
I'm going to tell people how they can be a witch like me and have power, because that's what sells out here. People want power.
And by the way, just real quick, this woman also
Yeah, sorry.
Just real quick, this woman also got named, was it the education ambassador for Ukraine during the height of the Ukraine-Russia war?
Ridiculous.
It's like, think to yourself, it's like, this is a woman with very, very deep connections. Whenever anyone mentions her name, because there's an interview that I think Alex Stein did about a year ago where he was interviewing Lady Gaga's father about her relationship with this woman, and he got very defensive very quickly, basically saying, oh, she's just a performance artist, and then kind of like move away from the whole topic. Very like, so whenever you mention her name publicly, people get very, very uncomfortable, because it leads people to an uncomfortable truth that they don't want the public to really know about what's going on behind closed doors. But go ahead, Rob.
That's part of the game, though. It's just part of the game. They don't really want to admit it. It's almost like a hidden or an open secret. But even girls like Lana Del Rey, Billie Eilish, I mean, they're all in on this. This isn't just Lady Gaga.
Didn't Lana Del Rey, didn't she leave all of that and is married to some alligator wrestler now or something?
Now that would be news to me, because I remember when she was talking about joining the spell to stop Donald Trump a few years ago.
Well, look,
it was a few years ago, but like I said, I don't know if she's removed herself from that environment yet, or who knows.
I hope so.
The word occult means hidden. So I mean, I'm not that's you saying that they're basically doing this in plain sight and lying about it or denying it. That at least adds up. But I don't know what to make out of it. It being non-religious, it's sort of just okay, so these people believe in this shit and they drink blood, and you know what I mean? I'm literally connecting it to this ritualistic thing where it's okay, so and obviously I'm more skeptical when it comes to this shit, but it's just it's a lot of symbolism and nonsense. But well,
like I said, remember when we did our episode, Rob, remember when we did our episode a year ago, and it was specifically about celebrities selling their souls to Satan, and whether that was a real concept and a real ideal and stuff like that. And we mentioned it for you guys who watch our Bible lens. We talked about it in Matthew 4. Satan did try to tempt Jesus 3 times in the desert, and one of those temptations was all the things in the world I would give to you if you fall down and worship me. And I make the point all the time. It's are we to believe that was the only time Satan has ever made that offer to anyone else in the essentially world history?
I mean, Bob Dylan,
that was the only time.
Bob Dylan talked about this. There's this super awkward interview that he did with 60 Minutes where he basically was just I was going down the wrong path and I've sold my soul, and but I was but he became a born again Christian after the fact, and made his way back to God. But there's a lot of examples like that where it's just is it a metaphor or is it something more something else? You know what I mean? And again, I am I'm agnostic, I guess, at this point, but there's definitely enough stuff where I have to start to, you just start to question things, because it's okay, well, why is this everywhere if it's not real or relevant? You know what I mean?
You have to wonder if she's the female Harvey Weinstein and she's got a list somewhere. And she's holding it up. She's holding.
It wouldn't surprise me if Lady Gaga was probably on the list for a lot of those parties and whatnot. Like, we all talk about, are they ever going to reveal the Epstein list? It's like, if you look hard enough, you could pretty much guess exactly the people who were there at some of these islands, some of these parties that we talk about behind closed doors. I mean, as far as Gaga goes, her connection to Marina is pretty much out in the open here, so it's not really a big leap to see what was going on here, I guess, behind closed doors, and this is what she's telling us like in front of it here. But yeah, you notice that this is something else that I've noted here too. I'm gonna swing this over to Cider, because Cider heard all the things that we were just talking about here before a second ago. I've noticed this trend with a lot of artists, and look, I know that the common, excuse for a lot of this is like, oh, it's just art. No, bro, they're just trying to get a rise out of you. They're just trying to anger the Christians so they can. This is all marketing. Like, don't worry about it. I was like, think to myself, okay, all of them. Like, if it was just Marilyn Manson, I can be like, okay, he's just a weirdo, right? But it's not just Marilyn Manson anymore. It's the entire industry. And if you notice, especially over the last few years, these music videos and these artists have gotten more and more evil as time gone on. It wasn't that long ago we did a kind of a deep dive in the Justin Timberlake's video. What was it? No More Angels, where he basically gets possessed by a demon towards the end of that music video. We played that one here as well. Everyone talks about like the Little Nas X's and the Little Uzi Vert, which, Little Uzi Vert, who you think that's referencing to. And then a few other people. Skylar Grey was another one who was kind of like a normal artist not too long ago, and then she went full time. Like, all these people, it's like, is it getting to the point now where it's like, who's really having trouble accepting the truth here? Like, is it them or is it us? Like, are we just not accepting that these people are exactly who they show us to be, or is there something far worse going on here? Like, Cider, what's kind of your take on this?
To be honest with you, I think Rob really kind of encapsulated what a lot of people think, is that they're seeing it and they're like, I don't know what to interpret out of this.
Mhm.
I understand that this is making me uncomfortable when I see it so often. Some of it's okay, some of it's entertainment, some of it's a little over the line. And so I think that Rob is kind of encapsulating most of America right now, who sees like that gay guy that went and paraded around there at the award ceremony.
Smith, I think his name.
Yeah, Sam Smith. They saw the Sam Smith Award and they were like, well, that's probably not that's not something that should be at an award ceremony. You know, a lot of people agreed that was like over the line. So they backed up just a hair, and then they had Beyonce do that weird devil turkey thing that they had going on there at that other awards ceremony, where she was like wearing evil tinfoil. And it was just, it just continues to be like, we're Satanists, we're Satanists, we're Satanists, we're Satanists. Are you guys Satanists? No, we're not Satanists. Guys, they said they're not Satanists, so that can't be. And then they're meanwhile, they're like, we're Satanists, we're Satanists, we're Satanists. And that's just, what? At some point, you have to take them at their word, right? At some point, you have to say that the lady praising Satan is praising Satan, right? You kind of have to
protest too much.
Yeah, isn't that, you just brought up something that is an amazing point to me. It's like, with these people, we all were so much more inclined to take them at their word than we are of taking like the word of God, right? Because it's like, you quote a verse from the Bible, Jacob, you quote a verse from the Bible, and all of a sudden, oh, there's doubt, and it's like, oh, a whole bunch of people could have wrote that. I mean, there's though, but no, they just say, oh yeah, I don't totally worship the devil and sacrifice kids and do all these other things. Be like, well, I mean, hey, he said it. No, who am I to doubt, right? Like, you start seeing something a little bit more spiritually going on here. Rick, I forgot you even here, so I want you to talk
the story of my life. The story of my life. That's usually my dating experience, so I'm used to it.
But yeah, well, what is your take on this? Then I'll go with Nerdigans.
I think that they just look foolish whenever they do this. That interview that you showed of her going on about how limitless this witch is, it's like, who are you really talking about? This woman does not have any great skill, just laying there on a table with a gun and a condoms. That sounds like
talking about cutting her wrist.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like Afternoon in Juarez. I mean, so that's nothing extraordinary. I'm just puzzled. I think all of these people have such an inflated sense of ego and their great importance that they really think that all of this is going to attract. I don't know. Any person who decides to convert to Satanism because Lady Gaga is doing this and running around with some witch that we've never heard of, or that most people probably have never heard of, they've got to be really dumb. So I'm I'm not shocked. I'm never shocked. I'm rarely shocked by any of this. More bored, and whatever concerns you have spiritually are probably more in tune to what you guys know. I'm not that well versed in the occult, unless it's the occult history of the Third Reich. But other than that, I really don't know much. So there's not much I can contribute except that they look foolish, and she looks hideous in this.
That was a History Channel at 4 a.m. reference, by the way.
Yeah, I mean,
I thought
Okay,
a lot of it was just sort of build
She's
up
supposed to look
tolerance.
hideous there. Sorry, she's supposed to look hideous because the song is called "Disease." So, but like in terms of like Lady Gaga or some of like these other artists, a lot of them are suffering from drug addiction, and that's how they do express themselves and the pain that they are suffering through, or like they're suffering through like depression, or they've suffered through loss or something, or like obviously
demons will do that.
Demons will do that. I mean, that's how sometimes they express art is through demons or through like the seven deadly sins. They literally dress up as a seven deadly sin. That's how art is expressed sometimes. So like I don't know if it is Satanism per se. And when it comes to like Lady Gaga's music videos, for example, it just could be like because she's gone through a lot of shit. So it could be her expressing like her inner demons that she's dealing with. Beyonce, there's a lot of shit that's happened with Beyonce, including, the fight in the elevator, for example, with Solange.
Well, we've mentioned this in a few episodes here too. Like Beyonce has been caught multiple times inciting prayers to pagan female gods, because let's be honest, there is no mother god unless you're a pagan, and if you're invoking prayers to pagan mother gods, that also kind of lets you know whose side you're really on the side of things. There's also been people who have alleged that Beyonce has straight up performed witchcraft at her shows. Those same issues have been levied against Taylor Swift and a lot of other people. Here's what I will say here just real quick, and I'll let you finish your nerdigans. I mentioned this on an episode we did a couple of weeks ago talking about Hollywood's relationship with the Roman Catholic Church, and there was a pro-Catholic video, that was talking about basically claiming that the Roman Catholic Church is directly responsible for creating and kind of basically the modern city of like Los Angeles, like we say today. They take a lot of claim for it. They even go as far to claim it to be a holy city. I know that sounds crazy, but go back and watch that video from a few weeks ago. The woman said it in her own words. And I think to myself, from a believer's point of view, even a secular point of view, someone who's kind of on the fence about this whole stuff, holy is probably the last word we would ever use to describe the city of Los Angeles and the people who live there, right? Is that a fair assessment? I'm not saying completely anything that's off the wall here, right? But you look at, these people who are involved here in these small circles, and it's like, what are they doing here behind closed doors? And this is what they're doing in front of your face. Like, what are they doing behind closed doors? Because I want to keep this in mind here too. We were never supposed to know who Marina Abramovic actually was. Like, that was a name that wasn't supposed to be popularized until it came out during WikiLeaks. We weren't supposed to know who Epstein was. Epstein wasn't a guy who was supposed to be well known until people started asking questions about him, and then he ended up dead, right? We weren't supposed to know what was going on in those freak-off parties that Diddy was talking about until all of a sudden the FBI came knocking on his door, and now some names started getting dropped about what was actually going on behind closed doors. Like, so the details of what was actually going on in secret as it returns to the entertainment industry, this for certain. God is certainly not present in that city or in that industry whatsoever. There is no hint of Christ or Judaism or wherever you want to throw out there. There is no hint of anything godly remotely in that town at all. So you have to ask yourself, if it's a place that is completely devoid of God, which I think we would all agree with, then who's essentially running the show there? Who's actually running things? And I will just keep this in mind for you. A lot of people think that Satan is like this big evil red guy who tortures you when you go to hell and you do bad things. And I want to tell you, that's not what the Bible actually says about Satan. The Bible does not say Satan is in hell torturing you there. Hell is essentially where he is going to be thrown to be tortured for all eternity. That is not his domain, but the world has been deceived into thinking that. When it says that when he rebelled against God, he was tossed down to earth, where he then proceeded to deceive the entire world, where he's still actively deceiving the entire world to this day. So the Bible says Satan is here actively deceiving. It doesn't say he's waiting for you when you die, you become a bad person. None of that is actually there at all. So I do want to keep people a note here that a lot of people were asking questions like that, and oh yeah, and I know that somebody just sent me. I think I just showed you that photo too. But yeah, there's tons of very very questionable connections here with a lot of these people, and at a certain point, you do have to assume that look, maybe these people are just as evil as wicked as they're showing us that they are. Like maybe these aren't just normal people who are doing edgy, cool, art, quote unquote. Maybe these people are just evil. Maybe this woman here, what's her name, Michelle Lammy, I think is her name. She also has a lot of connections with a lot of people in the music industry and in the fashion industry as well. If you want to go through another rabbit hole, Elon Musk. Have you guys seen his mother? Do you know anything about Maya Musk? Look into her. The connections get a lot creepier when you start doing a deep dive. I think what Rob was saying earlier is like when you start really going into the rabbit hole, you kind of have to pull back, because I think that when you go deeper into the rabbit hole, you come to a conclusion that there's only one logical conclusion of what's going on here. And I think there's only one logical conclusion when it comes to Lady Gaga and her connections and the people who she associates herself with. And I'll just leave it at that. So any of you guys have any?
I do want to mention this because I just think it's just funny because you mentioned the whole thing with Los Angeles. Rick Riordan, for the Percy Jackson books, it's very interesting that he based Hades, he put Hades in Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
The underworld, the door to the underworld and Hades himself, they're in Los Angeles. So I just think that's interesting. Out of all the places that he could have put Hades, it's in Los Angeles.
I want to throw this out here too, just in case you guys had nothing else to give here. I'm not going to say this is what's the word, prophetic dream or anything like that. I'm not telling you that I got some vision from God or anything like that. I'm not going to do that here in the show. I had a very, very interesting dream a while back ago, and this was the details of the dream that I had. I was in the city, and then, because, like I said, I'm from Southern California, I'm from San Diego, I've been to LA many times. From what I identified with, I can clearly tell that it was the city of Los Angeles. Just by looking around, it's like, okay, I'm in LA. And I'm walking down this street, and when I'm walking down the street, it's well lit, like I'm right over like the LA River and whatnot, walking over this bridge, and there's a building to my right. Now, when I went to my right and went towards the building, I went basically around the other side of the building, and as I got to the other side of the building and I went up, I realized that I was basically looking at what can only be described as the rich neighborhood of LA, but I knew it was something that looked very similar to Laurel Canyon. Let's just put it that way. And when I looked out to Laurel Canyon, and I shit you not when I say this, it was nothing but pure blackness. Like, in the context of, I knew something was there, but you couldn't see it. Like, anyone ever been in like a blackout before where like all the lights go off and it's just like there's just nothing there? Like, you can see all the buildings, but there's just no light whatsoever. That's exactly what it looked like. And I knew exactly where I was looking at. And I just thought to myself, there is something going on here. There is something there that you should not go towards, like, whatsoever. That was the overwhelming feeling that I got. Now, I'm not sitting here telling you that I'm a prophet and that was a prophetic dream. I'm just telling you that that's a dream that I had, and that's how I deciphered it. So who knows if there was something more going on there or not? Like, exactly, like, who knows? But from what I've gathered and from what I've known from everything we've uncovered here over the last few years, for any of you people who have any dreams of moving out to LA and selling your soul to be a star, don't. It's probably not the best thing for you. So, any final thoughts here on this topic before we jump over to our next one?
I mean, the industry's dead anyway. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I think about this all the time. Like 10 years ago, having, thinking I might move out to write, screenplay or be in the industry. And it's like, it died a long time, a while ago. It just died. So.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
I think
you are the company.
I think Napster started it and digital killed it. There's no such thing as CDs anymore unless your grandfather asked for something. It's just the industry. I don't know how. It's just like streaming too. And to me, this is just a bunch of weird millionaires. I want nothing to do with them. They have embraced some darkness that I want no part of.
Yeah.
And whether they are, dyed in the wool, loyal Satanists, or whether they're just like, that weird kid that you maybe hung out with a few times and said, dude, that's just too much. I'm not into that at all. I'm not into what they're into. So
I will say this. I've known like weirdo goth kids in my life. Rob is here, right? But outside of that, these are not the weirdo goth kids that we're talking about here. These are people who firmly believe have made a pact or some kind of deal with a dark entity, let's just call it that way, for material things. These are people who have sold out their lives for, give me all the money, give me all the women, give me all the drugs, all the material things that people think bring them happiness and only make them miserable, unhappy, insufferable, all that good stuff. These are people who have essentially made that deal because in their minds, essentially, like I said, the material is more important to them than the
Yeah,
spiritual.
they're
That's really what it
narcissists.
comes down
I mean,
to.
they're just narcissists. They're into their own selves. They're self-centered. They're their own gods.
Mhm.
And I'm sure you're right. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. Why would Bob Dylan say such a thing on 60 Minutes if it wasn't a thing that happens to some people? I don't
Yeah.
think that every person you show up at the LA Visitor Center and there's Satan over in the corner. Hey, you want fame and fortune? Come on, let's sign up. I got a
Mhm.
contract for you right here. I don't think it's anything like that, but I think that the purposes of Satan would be fulfilled through just a handful of acolytes and adherents to him, that are complete 100% true believers. And then they put on these sorts of displays, or then they say, you're just born that way. Go chop your body parts off. You don't need to stay the way you are. You be however you
Yeah,
want.
if
You don't need
if
to
a
be the way
voice
God made you.
if a voice in your head tells you that you're trans now, just go out there and turn trans,
Sure.
Ellen Page. Like just go and
So,
do
I mean,
it.
it just, even if you don't subscribe to that, even if you don't buy into, that Jesus, whom we basically set our calendars all over the world by the year he was born or the time he was born, maybe you don't think he existed. Maybe you don't think any of that is real. But there are people who do, and they are people who, they have no love for anything but themselves, which means, they're willing to do anything to triumph over you if it means you're getting in the way of something they want. And those people exist. The evil exists. Whatever it's embodied by, it's real. I have my beliefs. I share
like I
Jacob's
said-
beliefs, but not everybody does.
And then I will say this before we move on to our next topic. If God was not real, and I understand there's people out there who are kind of, they don't believe in the whole God thing, but it's like, if he wasn't real, then why would people who profess to believe they don't believe he's actually real, why would they go to such lengths to rebel against everything that he ever wrote? Or everything that he ever said, and everything from his law to the way the do's and the don'ts, and like how we should live, and all the. Why would you go to such lengths to rebel against something that you claim that you don't believe in? I mean, I don't go this hard to
I
rebel
hear you.
against like the Easter Bunny, and I
Yeah.
know a lot of atheists like to compare God to the Easter Bunny, but you don't see us going to that lengths to rebel against the Easter Bunny or Santa Claus or Krampus or whatever the other case is. If it was all just a bunch of mumbo jumbo, so it's like, I think for some people there's maybe a bit of a more spiritual backing to.
I
the
think
things
some
that they
people just
do.
aren't seeking. You're not seeking for that, and so you won't find that. But I think for the people who don't believe in God, I would recommend, if you can stomach to open the Bible, to read Ecclesiastes. The Byrds made one of their biggest hits based on the lyrics from one of the chapters of Ecclesiastes. It's actually one of the greatest books on life and where it leads and what it's all about. And it's really the meaning of life right there in Ecclesiastes. It's beautifully written. It's tons of wisdom. And I think anybody that's not familiar with it, if you just read it, you'll go, wait, I've heard this. Wait, I know this. This is wisdom that's been handed down through the ages. I didn't know this was in here. Just give it a shot. That's all.
Yep. Well, look, I know that, a lot of Christians agree with me that Lady Gaga and her ilk are evil, but they're probably going to disagree with me on our next topic here, because this is something that I had a big pushback against over the weekend. It was about this Carl's Jr. commercial. So if you guys don't know the story, Carl's Jr., depends on where you are in America. For some places it may be Hardee's, but Carl's Jr. came out with a new commercial promoting their hangover burger, and they brought back an attractive young lady to be on the commercial. And this thing is the first time in like almost 10 years that they've done this. I'll explain to you.
Wasn't
this,
Paris Hilton in a commercial years
in
ago?
2005. Yes.
Yeah, in a long
okay.
time ago. So, like I said, it depends on where you are in the country. Carl's Jr. was very, very notorious in the early 90s the late 90s to early 2000s for doing commercials where it was like hot girls eating burgers. They would do this all the time. This wouldn't be anything new. They stopped doing it for a while because, for a while heterosexuality was not allowed, and then they decided for this year's Super Bowl they're going to bring it back. So they got this social media influencer Alex Earl, who never heard of her before this commercial, like never seen her before, so it's like I have no context of anything that she's done or whatnot. Pretty blonde girl, and they put her in the commercial and they put her in a bikini. Now I'm going to play the full commercial for you guys, because I want you guys to know the full context of what we're talking about before we go into, I guess, the commentary regarding this commercial. But this is the full Carl's Jr. commercial that they played for the Super Bowl yesterday. I guess not yesterday, 2 days ago, but here it is.
Let's be real. Everyone's gonna be a hot mess after the big game. Been there. Done that. And I've got just what you need to cure that post-party bug. The Carl's Jr. Hangover Burger. Egg, double bacon, yeah, you need that double bacon. Charbroiled beef, hash browns, cheese, and sauce. Just the way I like it. And guess what? It's free the day after the big game. You just have to download the Carl's Jr. app and sign up for my rewards. So get your free hangover burger on Monday, February 10th. He'll definitely need one.
And that's it. That's the whole commercial there. I think it was like, 45 seconds long. So, Chris, I know you have to head out here in a second, but real quick, I just want to get your thoughts on that commercial. Then I'll explain to you, I guess, some of the pushback that people in our community has had regarding that commercial. What is just your take on the general, Carl's Jr. hot girl commercials?
I don't, I mean, it's got it's a throwback, right? There's a little side boob there, a shot of her butt at the beginning. I see more flesh on TV shows like Tracker. That dude has to take his shirt off every episode. I mean, so I get it. It's flesh, right? It's Carl's Jr. Here it's Hardee's, where I'm from. But I don't know.
By the way, Rob said that Hardee's is better than Carl's Jr. I would literally ban
their breakfast is amazing. As a matter of fact, that's the only time there's ever a line in the parking lot is for breakfast. It's a sad thing. She's not a good actress. She's fine looking, I suppose. She's fit, I guess, but I don't know. What I did think was great about the commercial, because I'm in marketing too. I run a video production company, and man, free burger, download the app. Boom. That is so smart. They could have done that with anybody. I think they were just trying to, hook the people who, like pretty girls, that they're watching the NFL games for a shot at the cheerleaders, right? So I guess it's fine. It's a little gratuitous to show so much side boob, but what's funny is it is that the top was made out of the stars, which is part of the logo. I get how some, conservatives will get bent out of shape. The fundamentalist side of me, that's got to go to church on Sunday and is with Jesus every morning for a few minutes with the word. I don't need to be thrilled by that, but I got a good looking wife, so I don't care what they want to do. I didn't think it was so egregious that there needs to be some kind of controversy about it. That's my take. That's all.
Well, we'll get a little deeper into the controversy here, but I know you do have to go.
Yeah, I do.
Appreciate
hey,
you.
Thank you, guys.
Joining us whenever you guys
Bleedingfool.com or Chris Brawley. You can find me retweeting a bunch of stupid stuff and occasionally saying a bunch of stupid stuff that's not liked as much as the stuff I retweet. So I'll come back anytime. Thanks for reaching out to me, Jacob. It's been a while. I don't think I've been on in, probably almost a year, but I'd love to come back again. So keep in touch, okay? And thanks, everybody, for putting up with me.
Certainly will. Thanks for coming back here. So I do want to get your guys' here because that was kind of the more reasonable approach to essentially what happened here. And there were people out there who had kind of a more reasonable approach to this. But then, of course, you had the grifters. And we all know who the grifters are at this point. Let's go ahead and start off here with our good buddy Melanie Mack, who had a interesting take based on Joe Barry's interesting take here. Now, Joe Barry, I guess, is the editor of the Babylon Bee, which is known as the Christian satire site. It's basically like Christian, like Onion, but that's all it is. And I don't even hate Babylon Bee, but here's what he said here, and this is off the New York Post, basically saying that, hey, we're bringing back bikini clad models for commercials here. He said that we're going to keep swinging wildly back and forth between genderqueer insanity and whatever this slop is, aren't we? Which she replied, yep, and the people celebrating it haven't connected the obvious dots that it's smut like this that always turns gay, and gay always turns pedo. Sins never stops because it doesn't contain itself. We can't fully stop the pedo and the queer unless we must stop the smut too. So obviously she fully believes that this was smut. Now, believe it or not, this is not the comment that got me going this weekend over the backlash of this. This is a woman here who, let me get her name, is Amy the artist, who is an Orthodox Christian, so she's one of those people. And here's what she said here in the New York Times Post. She said, all the conservatives who, just like our good buddy here, DK, were saying that we are so back. She says here that all the conservatives are saying that we are so backing in the replies, iconic from the party of quote-unquote Christian values. Forgive me if I don't see a 24-year-old digital stripper selling fast food as culture war wins. As she went on to explain here, so many women had eating disorders in the late 90s and early 2000s because our advertising landscape appealed solely to the lowest common denominator males, and I'm not doing that again, sorry. So that was her reply. There's several other people who claim onto her reply. This is what got me hot, and here's my angle to this, because as you guys know, over the last few weeks I've been angering a lot of pro wrestling fans on social media. This has kind of been a thing for a while here, and my thing with pro wrestling is that I can tell from just the limited lens of pro wrestling, even though you can see this as a societal issue, is that back in the 90s and the early 2000s, the United States of America, its bread and butter as far as marketing used to go was 18 to 34 men. Heterosexual men between the ages of 18 and 34. That used to be the bread and butter demographic here when you were talking about marketing for television shows, movies, advertisements, whatever the case may be. And over the course of the last 10 to 15 years, we've completely spit in the face of the 18 to 34 men, and we have either gone to feminist women or essentially the LGBTQ community. And as a result of this, we've turned our backs against men entirely. So Carl's Jr. releases an ad, whether you like it or not, is trying to placate to that old demographic that used to be their bread and butter back there in the same time frame, and now all of a sudden all the people in the conservative Christian right are now freaking out about this, saying that no, we don't need to go back to this. Here's my reply to her post here, and I'm going to go into full detail here. This is why you guys are called the woke right. This is the exact argument being that, you know, she's talking about, oh, well, women were experiencing eating disorders because of unrealistic body types. This is the exact argument that led to the push towards modern audiences today. Women who were jealous of bikini models from the 90s and the 2000s wanted women who looked like them. And over the course of the last 20 years, that's exactly what you got. Unattractive and overweight women who don't make you feel bad about yourselves anymore. That's essentially what we've seen in advertisements, specifically in the last decade. And it says here that now the companies are hinting at marketing towards 18 to 34 males again, who you call the lowest common denominator. Like I said, for some of these people, you can't tell them apart from essentially what's supposed to be the Christian right to the feminist left, because they're both using the exact same language to essentially scourge men, right? Now you want to stop them from going back. You said you are right about the horseshoe theory because the religious right and the secular left both hate attractive women and want them gone. They just want them gone for different reasons, but the objective is exactly the same. Now the picture here is from Candice Michelle. If you guys know Candice Michelle, she was a former WWE diva in the 2000s. She was also very popular in the GoDaddy commercials that they used to run in the Super Bowl 20 years ago. We'll play a little bit of that later on here, but that was specifically my response to Amy the artist. Is very, very discouraging response there in that whole thing. Like I said, it sounded like feminist garbage, and that's kind of why I went as hard as I did here. I'm going to stop here just for a second because I have some other things I want to play up to this as well. Rob, I want to go here with you because obviously, Rob, you know about this time period just as well as I do. Like I said, there was a time period where it was 18 to 34 men was the target. We've now turned our back on it. And as a result of this, at least some people in the culture are trying to be like, hey, you know what? Maybe we should kind of make up with those men that we've essentially turned our backs on and spit on over the course of the last several years. And it seems to be a large group of, hate to say this, women who do not want to go back to that time period here. So what's kind of your take on the Carl's Jr. commercials and essentially the backlash behind it? Do you think it's justified? Do you think that we're basically seeing the same thing that we saw here with Gooner Gauges in the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's a cheeky wink to what Carl's Jr. used to do. I mean, we have to remember what the culture was like, where we had FHM and Maxim and the Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition. And yes, yeah, in a fantasy way, we used to love looking at women's bodies in this completely, whatever, navel gazing, cheap, fun way. But it was never about realism. The thing with women's magazines that always gets me is like, it's for fun. It's about being sexy. It's about creating an image that resonates some kind of feeling, and as much as we've seen the other perspective be shown for the last 10 to 15 years, where it's like, yeah, women deserve some consideration. And like, it's not easy to constantly be looked at this way. It's like, yeah, but it never was supposed to be serious. It was never supposed to be, hey, this is what you should be. You know what I mean? It's like the fact that women depend on these publications, advertisements, whatever, speaks to another issue of how women are raised. So, but that to me, that's a completely different topic. So like, this commercial is tame. This commercial is like poking
very
fun,
tame compared to some of the other ones,
right, at kind of what they used to do. This is nothing. And seeing how people responded was, I felt disingenuous. I mean, if you're genuinely offended by this, don't watch it. Don't buy a burger from Carl's Jr. Okay. But this gets back to the censorship issue. This gets back to, if you don't like it, don't watch it. And that's always the side I'm going to land on. I assume, by the way, I had not seen this commercial. I assumed it was overly sexual. I assumed there was lots of cleavage. I assumed the burger was spilling down the girl's shirt. No, the girl sounds, not looks, but sounds like Sydney Sweeney. So I mean, I kind of saw what they were trying to go for. Was like this girl doesn't mind, kind of showing off a little bit, but there's also a bit of tongue in cheek to what she's saying, and she knows what it is. She knows it's for fun. She knows it's poking fun at this thing that Carl's Jr. used to do. That's all it is. And I don't understand the mindset of anybody that would get upset at this or have an issue with it. I mean, there's a million other things that you could be up in arms about right now, but you're picking, culture war nonsense to get upset over that no serious adult, no serious minded person would get offended at. But here we are. So I'm not surprised by it. Certainly after seeing all the stupid this is a separate topic, but the Kingdom Come 2 bullshit over the last couple weeks, it's just been like, okay, these people they just will parrot any talking point that gets them attention. And here's the thing, like, we all have some kind of identity on social media. Okay. I even play into a different persona than maybe you see on this show, but guess what? Everything that I say, unless I'm really fucking with somebody, is my opinion, is what I really think, and whether you like what I say, usually that's not the case, or you don't, that it's coming from a real place. It's not coming from, hey, I'm doing this just to get attention. And that seems to be a lot of stuff in the conservatives, especially since Trump got elected. The conservative sphere is starting to become a little insufferable. Now maybe I'm just sensitive to that, because I don't like when either side gets a little too cocky and full of itself. But yeah, this is ridiculous. This whole Carl's Jr. thing is just beyond ridiculous.
Yeah. So, Nerdigans, I want to shoot this one over with you, because I think that one of the big point of contentions here is that there's a lot of people out there who are just going out there labeling everything pornography. Like, everything is porn now, except for the stuff that's like explicitly porn. everything is porn. So it's like if you see a 10-second clip of a video game character's butt on a camera zoom, that's porn. Like if you see a girl in a bikini selling burgers, that's pornography. And like that's kind of like their entry point to be like, oh, this everything needs to be banned. We need to get rid of this. We don't need to go back to this at all. And I'm just sitting here thinking to myself, it's like, guys, you guys have muddied the waters to such a ridiculous degree now. It was one thing when you were just making the argument, okay, hardcore pornography, like the Pornhub like type of stuff. It's like if you want to get rid of that, but there's certainly arguments to be made here, especially considering how shady a lot of those organizations run behind closed doors here. But like I said, you're not even fighting in that arena anymore. This isn't even actually we want to fight actual pornography websites. Is that we need to fight Carl's Jr. commercials. We need to fight Fortnite ripoff video games. It's like this is not the hill to die on for this topic. You can get more people on your side if you actually fight the legitimate problem, but now they're just going over anything in the culture that they deem to be pornography by their own definition. And this is kind of the big point of contention here. What's your take on the Carl's Jr. Commercials and everything going around with this?
First of all, it was never about just like Pornhub or like porn on Twitter. No, they want it gone, period. And it's never going to happen, whether they like it or not, because it is unconstitutional. Porn, whether they like it or not, except for child porn, basically, is protected under the First Amendment. It is freedom of expression. And porn does include hentai, which is drawing. It is art. And what they would consider porn by their standards is, and actually Instagram took it down, is classic art. They called it porn. Ironically, there's the Insta thoughts, but yeah, they took down classic art and called it porn. So yeah, you're full of shit. You're not gonna put us in burqas as much as you want us to be in burqas. So you could suck it.
You using a burqa with a Packer logo?
Oh, is this the Kate Upton one? This is the Kate Upton one.
So like they're being so retarded. Like the Carl's Jr. commercials back in the day were way more sexy than this. The girl that they chose, I'm sorry, they could have chose a way hotter model than that.
Well, I was going to say, like, keep in mind, this is the commercials that they were showing 15, 20 years ago. And the reason why I'm showing this to you guys here is I want to show you that this is the way that they advertised back then. Because, like I said, if your bread and butter is 18 to 34 men, and it's like, oh, Kate Upton, she's hot, put her in a commercial and put our burger logo on there. That will get things to sell. But that's not the case anymore. They found this, I don't know if she's like Instagram or TikTok person. They all start blending together after a while. They thought that she was like a tame option, right? Because it's like she doesn't have like a big enough butt or big enough boobs for anyone to get like really concerned about. So it's like we just put her out there in a bikini and have her be a spokesperson. And like I said, it wasn't even that sexy. And I'm going to say this here too. For people who are making the argument that's like, oh, well, you're promoting lust, you're promoting all this other stuff. If we were talking about Kate Upton, probably. I don't know how many guys here were actually genuinely attracted to the blonde girl we played in the first video. Is she even like your type?
No.
No? I actually like an ass on women. I don't like washboards or anything like that. Sorry.
And here's another thing. For you guys arguing against, oh, you're promoting unhealthy body types. There were a group of men out there who didn't like those skinny supermodels from the 90s. Like, there were a group of men out there who was like, yeah, that's not really my body type. I like a woman with a little bit more and a little bit more meat on her bones, rather than, the girls from the video there too. So I know that this is a harsh concept for a lot of guys, a lot of women to accept here, but just because you put a woman in a bikini does not mean that people are going to start gooning after her immediately. There are a lot of women out there. It's like, hey, if they're not your type, she's not your type. And then guess what? There's no lust and there's no gooning. So it's like, what are we really arguing about here? Are we projecting perhaps somebody else's porn addiction onto other people who don't suffer from the same affliction that they suffer from? And they think that, well, the only way I can control my urges is that we ban it from everywhere else. Is that kind of the thought process here with a lot of these people?
That's what I'm seeing from a lot of the men that are calling for a porn ban, is that it's their porn. It's like, yeah, it was bad for me. I had a porn addiction, blah, blah, blah. Mofo, that is you. You have a porn addiction. It's like the same thing with people that are alcoholics, and you don't see them calling for a ban on alcohol. It's their problem.
Yeah. We tried to ban of alcohol. It didn't work.
No.
Lots of crime.
Yeah, but good movies came out of it. I will say that first, I agree with Rob in that it was shockingly tame. Because I was expecting something like really outrageous and scandalous. I was expecting her to be topless and like with little pasties and swinging things around. There was hardly any, for me. There was hardly any like visible nudity or anything close to that. It seemed she seemed well clothed for the ad. And second, the people that do find this particular ad pornographic or thing that it's scandalous, it does. I do agree with Nerdigans. They do have the same mindset as those men who want women in burqas because, if they even see so much as a hand or a fingernail or an ankle, that they'll lose control and go all lustful and maybe just ravish the woman right then and there. They have the same mindset. It's a very curious idea that women have to cover up because men cannot control themselves. I would argue that the problem's not with the woman, the problem's with you. If you think that this is pornographic, or if you think that a woman in a bikini is pornographic, or just a woman showing some skin. One was that side stalking is considered shocking, but come on, guys, this is absurd. The people who want this banned and who keep saying that, we're defending purity or whatever, please spare me. You guys would not, I don't believe you.
So this is where me and Spencer had a disagreement on that, because he thinks that Paris Hilton is hotter than the new girl. I would say while neither one of them is my type, I would rather go with the new girl than Paris Hilton. This was her commercial back in 2005, and I've always said this very, very openly. Paris Hilton is not my type whatsoever, so you don't have to worry about any insights of lust and gooning out of me from this commercial, because she's always come off to me as a complete... she's probably the closest thing to someone who has Down syndrome without actually having Down syndrome. That's probably the safest thing I can say here on YouTube, right? I can get away with saying that. But yeah, by the way, this is a burger commercial, just in case you guys didn't realize.
Mhm.
She can't wash a car very well. What is she doing?
She can't even be hot.
This is the
You
whole
don't
point.
start at the
Those
top.
heel marks are going to
Very well
leave
either.
a print.
All of these people, this is why it's disingenuous, because they're commenting on something that they either have no historical context of, or they're doing it for attention. And so it's just like, okay, you sound out of touch. You sound like you live in an echo chamber, And again, these are, I hate to say it, but it keeps coming back to these people who are just constantly projecting their supposed values, in this digital space. And it's like, look, you're not going to convert anybody. All you're doing is virtue signaling. You're doing the same fucking thing the leftists do when George Floyd died, and when they said they weren't riots, when they burned down, a good portion of Minneapolis in the Summer of Love riots. It's don't be like the people that you despise. Okay, please.
We do well.
You're
We
only undercutting your argument.
There are some people who do become the thing that they hate.
I will say this here, because this is Kim Kardashian's commercial. I think it was like 2006 or some nonsense like this. Here's the thing with Kim Kardashian. It's not her looks that make her unattractive. It's the fact that she's literally slept with everyone in Hollywood that makes her unattractive to me. Maybe that's just me, but it's like, if you've basically slept with at least 10 people that I know, like, there's no way in hell I'm ever going to find you attractive. That's just a personal thing for me. It may not be for a lot of other dudes, but it's like, when you've slept with at least 20% of the NBA, no, I think we're going to pass.
The downside of Kim Kardashian is that she's disgusting. She
That
doesn't
too.
look disgusting, but
and
she
she's
is
probably
disgusting.
a witch.
Wait, you know what? I want to bring this up because this tweet really bothered me. This person said, freedom to sin is not freedom at all. Like, what? Like, what? It didn't make any sense to me. Someone said, freedom to sin is not freedom at all. What the hell are you talking about?
Well, even if you go off of a biblical definition, free will does mean that you have the ability to either choose or reject God, which means free will doesn't mean you have the ability to choose sin if you choose. Now, what I would say is that there's going to be consequences if you do so, but you are in fact free to do so. So
You are,
I
yes,
would say that that's an incorrect statement.
that is, free will. That is what God gave us, and we can choose whether to do good or to do evil. And we know now I'm worried. I mean, with Kim Kardashian, sleeping with all these basketball players, I'm worried for Luca. He's now in Los Angeles,
Oh my God,
so
yeah.
he might get seduced.
I almost talked about that because that is one of the most rigged gerrymandered trades I've ever seen in my entire life, and I wish I had more time to talk about it. But we probably don't here tonight. We'll address it on another night here. But
We're
this
praying
is
for
the-
you to spare you, Luca.
This is the last quote unquote sexy Carl's Jr. ad. I think it was the last one before the one they just released a couple of days ago. And obviously this is the one that implies that she's nude, even though she's really not, but it's just the application is like, oh, by the way, we have a naked burger, quote unquote. Get it? No, he does not want to be in Los Angeles at all. Well, I mean, Kim Kardashian's got a lot of issues.
Oh man, and this really just comes down to the fact that we used to, we actually used to.
We used to
have
be a
fun.
proper country.
Well, I mean, we used to be able to enjoy things, and we used to like not take everything so seriously and put some political statement or label on it, or social whatever you want to call it. But it's just like I'm so sick and tired of being lectured to by people that have no fucking personality. Okay, and I don't care where you find yourself politically or religiously or wherever in the culture war. All you people lecturing other people what they're supposed to do, you're fucking annoying. You're annoying. You have no backbone. You don't believe in anything other than constantly haranguing people with your worldview and preconceived notions. Shut the fuck up and let people enjoy things. And this is me saying this. That I am the biggest asshole movie critic on Twitter, It's like I constantly tell people they're wrong for liking things, but like
true.
It's still based on a criteria and something I believe in terms of the art form. You know what I mean? It's based on something real. It's not based on just this constant hey, live like I'm living because I'm righteous. It's like, go fuck yourself.
It's when you guys talk about the woke right and the woke left, they both do have the same mindset that they are moral and intellectual superiors, and they are endowed by God or the divine or whatever idea they have to guide our lives. We are incapable of guiding our lives. We are incapable of making any decisions. So it will take someone who's progressive or someone who is devout, rosary believer, who will decide for us, and they will be our guiding light, and we should listen to them. It's the same mindset of their belief in their moral and intellectual superiority over all of us. So yes, this whole brouhaha is nonsense. We've seen this before in other things where people are like, "Oh, I'm shocked, I'm horrified." There's a woman in a bikini. Oh my gosh! It's like, come on.
A couple of points here too. Is Cider still here? Can you hear us?
I'm awake. Yep.
Are you conscious?
Yep.
Okay.
So, Cider, just real quick, I want to get your take on this issue because this kind of parallels to what we were talking about last week with the movie Companion, and then Hollywood and a lot of other entities trying to essentially kill the male fantasy. And here we even see it being brought back on an extremely small scale with a Carl's Jr. commercial. And you see people not just on the left, but even on the right are rebelling against this whole idea. It's like, what's just your take just on generally the reaction and the overreaction to a lot of these things that we're seeing here? Like, you notice that, like I said, it primarily comes back to what men tend to enjoy in our society, where we're still seeing essentially the 2016ing of our culture here. Like, we haven't completely removed ourselves away from it.
Well, we're not going to, because the situation is that as long as you let these blue-haired harpies run things, and that's from the HR department, or if that's with the hands-on with it, they're going to feel that they're in sexual competition with fictional things or real things. That Carl's Jr. commercial strikes on both sides because I would say the over 40 crowd, or at least the folks that are approaching 40, the ladies anyway, are incredibly sensitive to having to compete against that. And so they feel insulted that beauty, as they would define it, is being used to market a cheeseburger, knowing full well they'll never look like that gal. You see, goes back to the whole Barbie thing. Nobody in the world told little girls you needed to grow up to be like Barbie. Not a soul. Not a soul at all told little girls that you needed to be like Barbie. However, somehow, the feminists arrived at Barbie becoming a standard of beauty, when in reality, her body type was based on one that already exists. So that was kind of weird when that happens, doesn't it? The problem now for men, on the other side, we get He-Man, we get Superman, we get these things, these men that are like more sculpted than David, the statue with his winky, and meanwhile, we don't treat that as a standard of beauty. We treat that as a goal. We treat that as a someday, somehow, sometime, I will become the Superman. I will become that sculpted figure that inspired me as a young man to treat my goals as, this high aspirations rather than, lofty things. And I think for women, it just translates a little differently. Goals are a little less physical, maybe. I guess physical in the sense of like a challenge, maybe. I'm not a lady, I don't know, but for men, when we see these characters like He-Man, when we see these characters like Superman and Batman, we are inspired to head toward what they are offering us. When women see that Carl's Jr. woman eating that cheeseburger, they feel insulted because they don't feel they can obtain that, and thus they are in competition and they are failing against it. Meanwhile, we see what's his face there, John Cena, walk out naked at an award ceremony. And our forward thinking is, wow, he looks like a clown.
And the women are
I wish
allowed
I
to
was
ooh
naked
and
in front of
ah.
all those women.
And all the women are completely allowed to ooh and ah at naked John Cena.
Exactly.
But,
See, that's your
if we were
forward
to do a bit
thinking.
where like naked Cena was on stage at the Oscars, like none of the men will be allowed to ooh and ah because that's sexist and bad for some.
Everybody would have to boo. It would be a big thing. But meanwhile, your forward thinking is like, man, John Cena is such a clown doing that. And meanwhile, the back of your mind are like, wow, yeah, I wish I was naked in front of them all hooting and hollering in front of me. And I would look like an Adonis. That'd be neat,
Yeah, right.
But that's where the women go to.
Too.
But that's where the women go to. That's the problem.
The Oscars were created to convince the public that they weren't degenerate sex freaks doing opium behind the curtains. So
and then
remember.
He just comes out from behind the curtains, being naked, looking like he's on drugs. Yeah.
Real quick here, quick little shout out to Cold Classic Cage, and I appreciate the $5, but I will have to say this: it does feel like we're just hot potatoing this $5 between me and you over the last few weeks. But I do appreciate you continuing to get.
Somebody's got to pump it and gas into their car. You understand?
Yeah.
That's one whole gallon. But that's what it is that like the situation is that women interpret these commercials as a threat, as a bar that they don't want to obtain, that they either don't want to or can't obtain. Men see these like John Cena walking around naked like that. They see the Iron Man there when Tony Stark was all sculpted up there for a couple minutes. You see like Peter Parker being transformed, and you say to yourself, I can do that. And it's just the difference in perception. And that's why the Carl's Jr. thing, that's why the fembot thing is so threatening to them, because they don't think they can obtain that. Whereas a man takes the challenge as, I got to climb that mountain.
Oh, it's a rough one there. Just to add some color to the chat, Obi. I appreciate you. I want to play this commercial real quick, and then we'll go over to our closer here. This is another sexy lady commercial from the 2000s. If you guys remember, the Candice Michelle GoDaddy commercials were very, very controversial at its time. I think when their first commercial was just like, who's this hot lady with the big boobs whose shirt's falling apart? And it's like, oh, go to our website to find out more information. This was an ultimate bait and switch marketing technique from GoDaddy almost 20 years ago now.
Ms. Capelli?
Yes, I'd like to be on a commercial.
And what will you be advertising?
GoDaddy.com. Oh my gosh. It's a website where you can register .com names for only $7.95 a year.
And what exactly will you be doing on this commercial?
I could do a routine where I went like this.
Oh, surely by now you must realize that you're upsetting the committee.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to upset the committee.
May I suggest a turtleneck?
And that was actually like a controversial
Fred
commercial.
Durst on autoplay. You beast. You absolute
right
beast.
afterward. And
So
ironically enough, there will be a Yankee cap in our closer, but it won't be from Fred Durst. But no, like that was literally what we were doing in 2005, and that for some weird reason was considered controversial at its time period. And then she appeared on a bunch of other ones, and they were never nearly as sexy as the other ones. But I mean, if you like peak Candice Michelle, like mid 2000s Candice Michelle, and I kind of like mid 2000s Candice Michelle. I won't gonna lie, she did it more for me than in a lot of those other blonde bimbos they played in those Carl's Jr. commercials. So there you go.
So they used to have these compilations on Fox. Like they literally had a block set out for like the world's like raciest commercials, and they would show commercials from all over the world where it was just like, you know, and a lot of them you wouldn't even see in America. But they used to do that. Like they use for entertainment would show you like edgy or commercials that push the envelope or whatever at like as programming. Like I can't stress to anybody watching this the world that existed in like the late 90s to the end of the 2000s up to 2010. Like it was about like shocking, titillating. It was about getting people's attention, and we enjoyed it. It was fun. And like, I wish we had a little bit of that still. And that's why, you know, I can laugh.
TV shows in the 2000s were amazing too, by the way.
That's why I can laugh at the Carl's Jr. thing, because it's tame and it's poking fun of it at itself, at its former identity. And everybody pretends to be, or not everybody, but these people pretend to be offended by it. It's laughable. It's like, there's nothing there to even get upset by.
Yep. So any final thoughts on this topic before we wrap things up with our special video here for tonight? All right, I seem to be killing most of you guys. So I have one more video here, and it's kind of playing off of our video here, because this is the argument that I made too over the weekend. It's like, look, if a girl in a bikini now qualifies as smut, as some people have now called it to be, it's like, guys, have you ever been to like a coastal town like in your entire life? You ever been to like anywhere in like Florida or Georgia or California, or you're a coastal town? Every woman there is wearing a bikini. It's a beach town. That's what they wear when they're at the beach, right? If that's your classification of smut, then there's a lot of things that could be considered smut and porn that probably no other normal person would go to. Like, this is the thing that I was really fighting back against the most. Like, if this is the line that we're drawing here, then the downward slope, you're never going to recover from this. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people who are too blinded by their own pride to realize this. But I want to go back to the year 2003. I know the early 2000s has kind of been a focal point here of this show. Anyone remember a little show called Fashionably Loud? Does anyone remember Fashionably Loud from MTV?
No.
Essentially what they would do, especially during the time of spring break, because hey, look, we get spring break, we got a bunch of 25-year-olds posing as 18-year-olds who are in college for the spring, drinking and dancing and doing all the stuff. We have rappers here and whatnot. This is a show called Fashion Be Loud, where essentially they would have performers come out and they would, I guess, model whatever big fashion line it was at the time period. I'm just say this: if you were triggered by the Carl's Jr. commercial, which I don't know what to say about that, you probably wouldn't approve of this. This is from 2003. This is 50 Cent and MTV promoting Fashionably Loud, taking you guys back to taking you guys back to the past here for this one. There's some things you'll definitely notice here. That's Lala from MTV, who I believe was married to Carmelo Anthony. I'm not sure if they're still married. I haven't caught up with what's going on with them. And there's Missy Elliott, like right after she lost all that weight. Remember, she lost weight for a time period there and kind of went away for a while. You remember this? So yeah, here's a little bit of MTV 2003. This was spring break.
Showing up skin in a swimsuit is a
By the way, this was literally at the time period where like 50 Cent had literally taken over the entire world. It was like 50 Cent and G-Unit was like everywhere. And I'm pretty sure you guys remember that time period as well.
as old as spring break itself, and so far we've seen some of the sexiest and trendiest swimsuits of all time. Yo, check it out, y'all. This is my man 50 Cent.
There is another surprise appearance in this video towards the end too.
Let's make it. You said you were gangsta, but you never said. You said you were waster, and you need to stop praying. You ain't no friend of mine. You ain't no kid of mine. What makes you think that I will run up on you?
It's hard to explain the popularity of 50 Cent for people who weren't around during that time period.
I literally can't explain it, and I was, 15. Oh.
It was right on the heels of 8 Mile with Eminem, and that was super popular at its time period. And then Eminem kind of gave the boost to 50 Cent, and 50 Cent blew up in the counterpegging of himself. I believe so.
But you never cop love. You better chill in a long time and you ain't got good. You say you a gangster, but you never nothing. You say you a waster, and you need to stop. You know that I do it, but you never.
Like I said, it's literally just guys and girls in swimwear. And keep in mind, no one was ever complaining about the guys in the swimwear.
Now I'ma let the champagne bottle pop. I'ma get you to the top. I'ma make it hot. This one now pop. Yeah, the boat squeeze them up. Do a show. Now be the break with big peppers. And my mouth. I'm making shit alright a little bit, but get your money right. Cause I'm around quit playing, y'all. You gon' be that next show. Stand up in the show. Trying to be everybody. And that was what. Be easy. That's what I'm about. You can find me sitting on home. Hit the clutch, hit the gear, hit the gas, and I'm going. Now I'ma let the champagne bottle pop. I'ma take it to the top. I'ma make it hot, baby. After this spot with his mouth to smack. The oldest, he might come back to get. We ain't like a gangsta dollar. You can hit the whole side of reaction. Oh no, look who cut through the. Play expensive, low, bro. East side, west side, they know, yo, low, go. And if my mama said, something really wrong with my brain, nobody want me to know, yeah, that's half of my shit. Yeah, we get it. What's good?
Yes, that is Carmen Electra, 20 years ago.
Taking this all back, get that ass in the top stand, so it's the rap. You way over in there, be done. I'ma let the champagne bottle pop. I'ma take it to the top. Show, I'ma make it high, baby. Oh my God. Oh my God. What's up? Oh my God.
I shudder to think what Carmen Electra looks like now. I feel like it would ruin everything if I Googled that.
If Pamela Anderson is, just eking out, the belief that she can act, I can't imagine what Carmen Electra is doing right now.
Watch her win SAG, and then we'll talk.
Ooh.
Please stop.
Are you saying that Dave Bautista has not saved Pamela Anderson's career?
No, Jamie Lee Curtis was supposed to do that.
Oh yeah. Oh God, I forgot all about that movie. Oh, that was terrible.
I don't know about this. I know 50 Cent was like a rap guy, but it just didn't get up here because like you guys, I've never heard that. I've seen him like in like interviews and things like that, but like I've never heard that song like ever.
No, 50 Cent was like that was around the same time In the Club came out. In the Club was one of those songs that got played for like a year straight. And
Dude, the only way I know that song is for Need for Speed Underground, the video game on GameCube. I literally never heard it anywhere else other than that video game. I'm so sorry.
Oh my God. It was at my middle school dances. It was at my friends like bar mitzvahs. It was played everywhere.
No, the only thing that was like relevant at the time that came out that we were listening to was at our dances and stuff like that was that Shaggy song, the Girl You're My Angel song.
Oh my
There's
God.
absolutely nothing 50 Cent, none of that was coming through. We were getting Aerosmith with Arms Wide Open until like 2010. Like that was
Aerosmith with Arms Wide Open.
Was like I said, 2003.
I don't know. They sound the same.
2003 was that weird era where it was like, you know, all the bubblegum pop stuff was like dying out, new metal was dying out, like a lot of the music genres that were very popular at like the late 90s started going away. So then we started trying to like moving towards like R&B and hip hop was like kind of the primary thing. Rock to an extent, but even though it was kind of like more like was it Nickelback type stuff, it wasn't like rock like people
Or
remembered
Creed
it
type.
being. And yeah, and then that was kind
It's
of
like
the
alt
transition.
rock.
It was right before like the rise of people like Katy Perry and Lady Gaga and Miley Cyrus and stuff like that. So it was a very, very quick transition period. And like I said, when you look back at the earlier part of the decade, it was far better than the later part of the decade. I think, yeah, the later part of the decade was like night and day. It's like, oh, we've gone too far the other direction.
What I saw in that presentation, which was ostensibly a fashion show, it was supposed to be a fashion show. It was first I saw everyone was having a good time. Everyone seems to be having fun and enjoying it. The participants who were modeling and the people who were watching, everyone seems to be having a good time. Good for them. And second, it does remind me of that Victoria's Secret fashion show. I don't think many people actually watch to see what the latest in underwear or brassiere design was.
No
They
one
went
actually
to,
cared.
no, they went to see they wanted to see beautiful women, and they wanted to see
Yes.
beautiful women walking down. And now what ended up happening? You ended up getting what, plus sized women, transgender women,
Uggos.
huh?
A lot of they thems.
Because I guess I don't know whether they thought we should not appeal to men, or we're going to do diversity, equity, inclusion, what have you. But yeah, I thought that was fun. I probably would be out there. Probably I would be probably wearing what I'm wearing right now because that's how square I am. But the point is, everyone was having a good time, and I don't know why people now have this negative idea that you can't have a good time by seeing people consensually walking around in skimpy clothes and just listening to some music. It's
Like,
fun.
I think that this is the problem here too. Here, and I mentioned this before. We're getting dangerously close to the point where we're just shaming men for wanting to look at attractive women. Like we're just shaming men for genuine heterosexual male attractiveness, whether it's coming from, like I said, the LGBTQ loving left to the ultra conservative Christian right. They're both attacking men for essentially wanting the same thing. It's like,
They're attacking women too for being attractive and wanting to actually
yeah,
dress
because
how they
you
want.
guys were making women feel bad about themselves 30 years ago, and now this is why we have a bunch of they, thems, and Jaguar commercials. Like,
We
this
have
is how we
feminists.
got here.
Well, we women just can't win because we have feminists making us feel bad about ourselves because we can't have our curves, our natural curves at all, or surgically enhanced curves because of the male gaze. Fuck that. The male gaze is an Islamic thing. Screw that. And then we have the psycho Christians saying, or psycho Catholics. Let's be real, it's the psycho Catholics.
Yeah, they're not Christians.
Saying that, but you can't do that because it's pornography. It's like, what?
Now, I remember when a group of my friends and I would go to our high school library, and we would have to ask for the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue because for some reason they didn't have it out there. The librarian had to have it in the back. So once she was nice enough to give it to us, we would all just kind of stare, turn the page and look. And the librarian never shamed us. She never thought, she never openly said that we were terrible people. She just handed it, and then once we were finished with it, we handed it back to her. That was the end of it. Of course, we would do that a lot.
I hate to break this to you. The male gaze is how a lot of you guys ended up here in the first place. Like, I don't know, I have to explain to you how the birds and the bees work, but at some point in history of the world, your dad found your mom attractive, then you came along. That's how things work. So it's like, let's not go so far to shaming normal heterosexual attractiveness of men to women and women to men. Let's not go so far the other way that we're already staring down an inevitable population collapse. Don't help the problem get worse, and that's my final thoughts here. So, any final thoughts on this one before we wrap things up and roll on out of here?
Yeah, I
Well, it
mean,
seems like Gen Z and even some millennial women are what I would call catastrophists, meaning, they look at these situations, they're like, well, somebody could be being assaulted or somebody could be, and because you're promoting people getting to, it's like, yes, it's called life. It's called, yes, there will always be the opportunity for fucked up shit to happen. That doesn't mean you don't ever do anything like worthwhile or that's fun or that, that's worth engaging in. It's like, that's just life. Yes, you risk. They dealt with this during COVID. You deal with risk every day you walk out your fucking door. This idea that you can constantly be on the lookout for you're literally depriving yourself of being a human being by constantly virtue signaling about, you can't do this. You can't sexualize. Women like to sexualize themselves for attention. Men like to look at women. We're all sexual beings. Get over it. Get over yourself, please. Because seriously, I've been dealing with this for the last 10 years, okay? Since I was in my mid-20s. I'm done, okay? I'm going to go enjoy my life. I'm going to try to avoid people like that want to constantly prevent people from enjoying themselves, having fun, because why are we here if we're not going to at least enjoy it a little bit? Not every living moment, but come on.
So I found Carmen Electra here. This is how we're going to end tonight's show. This is a recent photo of Carmen Electra. By the way, she's 52, going on 53 this year. This is going to sound mean, and I'm just going to say I'll be the bad guy here. Every time I look at a woman in her 50s who still tries to be as sexy and attractive as she was in her 20s and 30s and so on and so forth, all I can think about is the old Bill Burr bit. It's like, stop trying to be fuckable in your 50s. And this is literally what I think about with Carmen Electra. I think to myself, this is essentially the equivalent of a Datsun with 400,000 miles that just got a new paint job. It's like, you're not going to take away from the Carfax here, but just stop. Stop. Maybe I'm just the mean one here. I'll be the bad guy for tonight.
I like that Rick's library had a beaded curtain section. That's funny. That's funny.
This is the high school. This was in high school.
Oh, the high school library had a beaded curtain section.
Yes,
I love it.
Yes.
Some guy named Larry ran it. You kids stay right here, all right? I'm going to go have a smoke. I'll come back with your Sports Illustrated, okay, kids? You hang right here.
Well, let's go ahead and sign off and get out of here. Cider, what do you got coming up?
There's stuff happening in Boundary. Check it out, 9 p.m., 8 p.m. sometime tomorrow evening. We are going to be going live talking about anime, talking about video games, talking about USAID, probably talking about USAID. We'll see you sometime.
Probably going to be talking about USAID. Nerdigans, wrestling somewhere with her cat.
My cat is being very fussy. You can find me on Nerdigans Inc. on YouTube, where we are, damn it, kitty, stop, where we are covering anime and manga every day. You can find me on Patreon on patreon.com/packergirl, where we are covering, where we are doing our anime live reactions. We're covering Dragon Ball Daima in the sub and the dub. The dub has Stephanie Nadolny back as Mini Goku. And if you watched Toonami, yes, you don't have to hear Luffy coming out of Goku's mouth this time. You actually get your childhood back, and it's actually pretty good. And we're also covering the 100 Girlfriends season 2, which has been really, really good as well. On Twitter, I'm causing chaos, and on for Bounding into Comics, I'm working. Speaking of Daima, there's a Dragon Ball Daima interview that I am working on covering for 2 articles. One on the production, or with Toriyama's involvement, and how Dragon Ball GT is actually connected to Dragon Ball Daima. And I will be on 01 tomorrow, and I'll try and be on Barroom next week. And are we doing Pokemon Adventures this week, or are we doing it next week?
We should be doing it this week. I think we'll be doing it on Saturday, but yeah, we should be doing it on Saturday.
All right.
All right. Rick, what's got coming up?
Yeah, just more reviews. Oh, I do also have my ranking of the 10 Best Picture nominees. I don't think Emilia Perez will be very high up on that list. And yeah, still working my way through the Exorcist retrospective. I still need to watch Exorcist 3, Dominion, something else, and I might even try to get the TV series, which I don't know if it's available. But that's pretty much it. And just more reviews and looking. Well, no, I'm not looking forward to the Oscars, so I will have to survive that.
Is there anyone looking forward to the Oscars?
The the people who think they're going to win.
I'm looking forward to the Oscars.
You are
I
a
like when my
fascinating
internet
man.
freezes, though. It's my favorite.
You are a fascinating man, Roberto.
Thank you. But yeah, I am looking forward to the Oscars because I'm a masochist. But no, I think Emilia Perez is just going to eat shit, and maybe we'll get some surprises. Maybe we'll get some fun winners or something like Demi Moore for The Substance. I don't know. I'm slowly getting back into my podcasting, so I will be doing more of those here in the next month because I really have nothing to do because new movies are shit right now. So, well, they've been shit for a while, but you know what I mean. There's nothing to see. There's nothing out there. So, football season's over, so back to the movies. And hopefully my personal or my professional life here gets less busy with I have my stupid test tomorrow. But anyway, that's pretty much it. Follow me over on my Twitter. That's about it. Bye.
All right. Let you guys know what I got coming up here. Yeah, Saturday we should be doing that show for the Pokemon review. Tomorrow we'll be there with 01 for Bounding in the Comics. We got a few things to talk about. The USA thing has been blowing up pretty big, so we'll be talking about that tomorrow night as well. This coming Sunday is part 3 of the Bible Lenses breakdown of the Satanic Panic, what really happened throughout the time period of the 60s and the 70s leading up to the 80s and the 90s. We'll talk more back of the sexual revolution that pretty much uprooted the culture. At the same time, all this stuff is going on in the entertainment sector, the culture sector. We're going to go into a deeper dive into that portion of it, and then we'll start getting into the juicy stuff of the 1980s and the 1990s that everyone wants to talk about as well. So part 3 of that will be coming on this Sunday at 7 p.m. and then we'll be back here on the Bar Room next week. By the way, if you guys notice, I changed all the thumbnails to all of our Bar Room episodes. We have all new thumbnails for every single one. You can go check it out on your own time. Until then, I want to thank everyone who joined us here, or in chat, who joined us earlier tonight, Chris, who joined us here tonight, all of you people, and all you great people in the chat as well. Thank you for spending another Tuesday night here. It's time for us to go and get on out of here. So adios, goodbye, and good night. Wave to the crowd. I think Cider's the only one waving. Adios.
Okay. Oh.
Making your way through the daily grind takes everything you've got. Taking a break from all your worries sure would help a lot. Wouldn't you like to tune away? All those nights when you're feeling low, the rent is overdue, and your coffee maker's broken, your luck just seems to skew, and your boss is always on your case. Sometimes you wanna go where everybody knows your name, and they're always glad you came. Wanna be where you can see our troubles are all the same. You wanna be where everybody knows your name. Roll out of bed and you feel the dread. The morning's looking bleak, and your internet is down again. You haven't slept all week, and your car just broke down on the way. Be glad there's a place online where you can feel at ease. In the Barroom Podcast, friends, we share our thoughts and tease. Every story shared, every laugh so free. Sometimes you wanna go where everybody knows your name, and they're always glad you came. Wanna be where you can see our troubles are all the same. You wanna be where everybody knows your name. So here's to the moments we all hold dear. In this barroom of the airwaves with friends so near. Every story shared, every heartfelt cheer. It's more than just a podcast, it's where we steer.
I still don't feel like I know how to shoot these things.